This meeting of the Eau Claire City Council will come to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. City Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Anderson.
Here.
Berge.
Here.
Brewster.
Here.
Johnson. Imboga.
Yeah.
Miller.
Here.
Otto. Reed.
Here.
Schoen.
Here.
Serrano.
Here.
Worthman.
Great, thank you. Welcome everyone to the Tuesday, January 13th meeting of the Eau Claire City Council. Last night was our first meeting of the year, but this is our first legislative meeting of the year, so Happy New Year to everyone. I also, before we get started, I sent out a press statement earlier, just about a half hour ago, that I wanted to read before we kick off our meeting tonight, which I said in the email. So it's in regards to the ICE presence that we have here in Eau Claire. So, to my fellow Eau Claire residents, I want to acknowledge how difficult and frightening this time is for many in our community. The increased ICE presence and enforcement actions by the federal government are creating fear and causing people to feel unsafe. While these are federal policies enacted by the President and Congress, and some may support them, the reality is that many people we care about, are afraid right now. It is traumatic for communities to witness people taken off the streets by masked federal agents, and for families to be separated when someone leaves home and never returns. Community members may have different concerns at this time. Some fear for themselves, friends, or family members. Others fear for their constitutional rights and freedoms, such as the freedom to speak out and protest. However, in times like these, we must lean into community and take care of one another. And I do see our community stepping up and helping each other, and this is what gives me hope. Finally, I want to be clear in saying I stand in solidarity with our immigrant neighbors. Our city values being a welcoming community where all feel safe, respected, and connected. No matter where we were born, we are all human, and our shared humanity must always come first. So, thank you for listening, and thank you for the care for our community. Okay. First up tonight is our consent agenda. So some of you might be here for a consent agenda item, and just know that unless the item is pulled out, all the agendas will pass or fail with one vote. Do council members have questions regarding the consent agenda or wish to remove any items for separate consideration? Okay, then a motion by Council Member Anderson, seconded by Council Member Serrano. The consent agenda is moved. Any discussion? City Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Anderson.
Aye.
Berge.
Aye.
Brewster.
Aye.
Imboga.
Aye.
Miller.
Aye.
Reed.
Aye.
Schoen.
Aye.
Serrano.
Aye.
The consent agenda is approved unanimously. We do have two proclamations tonight. I forgot to sign them, so I'm going to sign them quick. The first one is for Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Day, which I will read, and then we have Human Trafficking Awareness Month, and then we'll do that one. So I will read. So the proclamation for Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. So whereas Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. devoted his life to advancing equality, social justice, and opportunity for all people. And whereas Dr. King's teachings continue to guide and inspire us to address challenges in our communities. And as he once said, We are caught in an inescapable network of mutually tied in a single garment of destiny. Whatever affects one directly affects all indirectly. And whereas the Martin Luther King Jr. holiday is the only federal holiday that is seen as a day of service, a day on, not a day off, with the intention of encouraging all Americans to observe the day with action and education programs that will move us closer to Dr. King's vision of a beloved community. And whereas commemorating Dr. King's life is a tribute to his dreams and contributions to our nation and the world, and a reminder that every day each of us can play a part in continuing his work. Therefore, I, Emily Berge, President of the Eau Claire City Council, on behalf of the entire City Council and the residents of Eau Claire, do proclaim Monday, January 19th, 2026 as Martin Luther King Jr. Day in the city of Eau Claire, and encourage everyone to join in recognizing this day by seeking out and engaging in service programs in honor of Dr. King's life and lasting legacy. We have a proclamation for Human Trafficking Awareness Month, and if Joyce wants to join me at the podium.
Thank you, Emily. My pleasure.
I'll read it. So it's a proclamation. Whereas human trafficking has been reported in every county in Wisconsin, regardless of population, presenting a public health and safety risk for vulnerable residents of every race and gender. And whereas human trafficking, whether forced labor or sex trafficking, is a crime committed against an individual involving the use of force, fraud, or coercion. And whereas we recognize individuals impacted by human trafficking as victims in need of rescue support and assistance. And whereas the 2026 Human Trafficking Awareness Month theme, Connecting the Dots, Strengthening Communities, Preventing Trafficking, highlights the importance of awareness, collaboration, and community-based action to disrupt trafficking and exploitation before it occurs. And whereas Eau Claire's Fierce Freedom plays a vital role in advancing this theme through its everyday work to disrupt trafficking and exploitation by providing information, training, and guidance that help residents recognize trafficking, respond appropriately, and work collectively to prevent it. Now, therefore, I, Emily Berge, President of the Eau Claire City Council, on behalf of the entire City Council, do designate January 2026 as Human Trafficking Awareness Month in the City of Eau Claire, and join Fierce Freedom in calling upon local businesses, civic organizations, educators, communities of faith, and families to recognize the role we all play in connecting the dots, strengthening our community and preventing human trafficking so that freedom and dignity may be restored to survivors and upheld for all. So
Beautiful.
You. Yes,
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yes.
I am so honored to accept this proclamation on behalf of Fierce Freedom. So thank you very much, sincerely. Wherever we go, people often want to know the statistics. How many cases, how many victims? And the truth is, statistics used to represent human trafficking are difficult to verify and often so unreliable. But there is one statistic that I return to because for me it explains why I continue to do this work. The National Center for Missing and Exploited Children reported that in 2022, 1 in 6 endangered runaways were likely victims of sex trafficking. 1 in 6. That reality is why prevention matters, and it drives my work. In December, we wrapped up Intersections. It's our new video-based prevention curriculum with at-risk youth at the Juvenile Detention Center. Through Intersections, local individuals who have navigated sexual exploitation, trafficking, addiction, and abuse share their real life stories. The curriculum was intentionally designed with at-risk youth in mind to help young people build awareness, support healthier decision-making, and reduce their risk of becoming a statistic. And it's working. In post-curriculum surveys, 27% of the participating students at the JDC requested follow-up support with a mentor. And one of the teens said they learned to stand up for themselves and others, recognize unsafe situations, and would be able to teach others after this course. That's a win. Intersections was made possible through grant funding from the Pablo Foundation, and it's made freely available to our community along with resources. Prevention programs like this really will disrupt the cycle of human trafficking and exploitation. And proclamations like yours set the tone and help ensure that prevention remains a shared community priority and value. Thank you.
All right. Okay, onto our business agenda. So item number 9 is a resolution approving the operating plan of the West Grand Business Improvement District.
Excuse me. The first one is, have we done any kind of an assessment on the value of this property as is? Do we have an idea of its sale value as is? If we were to just like put it up with a commercial real estate firm?
Yeah, at this point, we know what our burden is on it, which is that 700,000, which we'd have to borrow for. So we have that idea. I would say, you know, with the tax minimums in it, you know, the use case is the best possible to bring in that additional tax value.
Okay, and if I could, Council President, the timeline, I'm interested in the timeline of the demolition of that property. When you said interim parking, I'm imagining it all gets torn down and then maybe a gravel lot or something for interim parking, but I'm not entirely sure I understand that. But I am, and I know maybe we haven't finalized the development agreement, so maybe it's tricky to say the exact timeline, but I'm just wondering, is this gonna sit for a couple of years, or what the intention is in terms of timeline of the demolition and the availability of the interim parking? I think you said $10 million value by 2031 is the goal, but any other detail there?
Yeah.
The development agreement is negotiated, and it's of course subject to your approval, but it's in your packet and signed.
Oh.
Section 4 addresses interim use, and so it calls for that parking, demolition, and its availability on an interim basis, so stabilized, and if more paving is needed or gravel, whatever, within 6 months. So by June of this year, it will be available for parking. And it's anticipated that the upper deck, which is not structurally stable at the moment, will be removed. It will be a task for the new owner, if this is approved, to figure out just which of the sort of side walls can remain and which need to be removed. Probably after structural analysis that, again, the private party then will have to do as opposed to the city, and all that work will be done, and again, it'll be open for parking, I think primarily for those adjacent commercial tenants by mid-year of this year. It will stay in that state until the final plans can be put together for a residential project with some sort of probably podium condominium type parking, lower level parking, and then upper level, either larger unit condominium type project or a 30 unit or more residential project that has to be online by 2031, meaning the construction of it would have to start, a year or two before that.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
One
Well,
more question.
Can I go to Councilmember
Yes,
Brewster
yes,
first? Thank
uh-huh.
you. Councilmember Brewster?
Thank you, Council President. Does this coming offline, you said the beginning of March?
Yeah, so the upper deck is offline currently. That started November 1st. The low deck goes offline March 1st.
Does that impact our Tiger Grant at all if the new parking at the transit center isn't up and running by then?
No, it should not.
Okay, thanks.
Great. Councilmember Serrano?
Thank you, Council President. So I'm wondering, kind of piggybacking off of what Councilmember Anderson said, because the city is, in partnership in some form here with vacating the land, I'm wondering if there are any kind of stipulations about energy efficiency in the development like we've done in other cases.
City Attorney Nick?
They're not energy efficient requirements, and I'm not aware, maybe I'm missing the one you're thinking of, but that's not something we've typically had in our development agreements. The only one I can think of that we somewhat touched on and substantially funded it to get it was with the Sonentag Center, but that was a 7-figure investment by the city to obtain that. So this is so we don't have it and have not had it in any other of our residential projects.
I was thinking of Prairie Heights, but I didn't know what the city's involvement was there, but.
Okay, all right. Good questions. All right. Thank you. Okay. Then by motion, let's see, Andrew's coming. By Councilmember Miller, second by Councilmember Schoen, this item is moved. Any discussion? Councilmember Miller?
Thank you, Council President. Looking at the development and purchase agreement, in section 5 for development and improvement of the property, it says the property shall be utilized for construction of either townhomes with attached, et cetera, or conventional multifamily housing features. And then if you look at page 71 of the packet, it kind of has 3 different proposed plans. One is the townhomes, the second one is a certain number of apartments, and the third one is even more apartments. The breakdown for letter A is 8 units of condos, B is 24 1 and 12 2-bedroom apartments, and C is 39 1 and 16 2-bedroom apartments. So total number of people living here, if you had just the townhomes, 8 units, say max of 4 per unit, is only 32 people. Going number B, you have 48 bedrooms, and going up to C, you have 69 bedrooms. And I consider this area to be kind of in the core of downtown. It's north of Lake Street, so it seems to be in our core district. And this is currently city-owned property, and owned by the city and us as stewards of the city. And given the housing needs in our community, I'm just questioning the Plan A to put forth condos of 8 units that at 4 person per unit kind of max would only be for 32 people, whereas you have the option for 40 and 69. I checked with City Attorney Nick, and they said, what are they thinking here? And they said, well, a lot depends on the future, what needs come along in the next 5 years or so. But if the developer here were to say, hey, I want to do this one, other people in the future would say, okay, I see they're doing that one, then that would modify other people's plans, because if this one gets set now a certain way, the future will be anchored in this and go forward. And I just think it's in the interest of the city to see higher density in this core zone. So I'm in the development agreement, don't think the best use would be to have the townhomes listed. I'm thinking that we should perhaps have the development agreement only go for the conventional multifamily housing units versus the townhomes. We can discuss this further, what other people think about that. Just that having only 8 units versus where you can have 48 or 69 bedrooms in this core area is something I think we should pursue, see how we own this property, and we're always looking for ways affordable housing, energy efficiency, what can we as a city decide what goes in our city, and this is our property currently. So I'm just tossing it out there if anyone wants to follow up on discussion on whether or not we would possibly strike out the townhome part and leave only for conventional multifamily housing, i.e. apartments.
Councilmember Anderson?
Thank you. And I want to thank Councilmember Miller for bringing up that point about density and the housing needs. It kind of makes me think that a hesitation that I have about what I think has a project that has a lot of great possibility for the city is that, we have a limited amount of city-owned property on the river, and it concerns me when public property becomes private property that has an income barrier to it completely. I would love to think that if we are transferring this public property into private property to be used for housing, that some of the housing could be accessible to people at different levels of affordability, because I think we all deserve access to beautiful water views, independent of our income. It's not always going to happen that way, but I think that's an opportunity that we have as a city to be thoughtful about how we privatize access to really valuable things like that. And I think perhaps a more dense development could allow for some more affordability options, because there could be some more expensive units that could offset some affordable housing units. So I might personally want to see perhaps more negotiation and conversation around this so that we could get greater density and some affordable housing options as well.
Okay. Councilmember Otto?
Well, thank you, Council President. I think those are some really valid concerns. What I'm thinking is we can't always control who wants to build the space and who wants to move in. So one concern we ought to address is the best situation would be dense, affordable housing there. Worst situation could be that it's a vacant lot or unoccupied building, and maybe we could think about prioritizing dense, affordable units. But if that simply doesn't come, having a condo is better than having an empty, unused space if there's demand for it. Just my thought process.
Thank you. Councilmember Serrano?
Thank you, Council President. I'm also thinking about the affordability piece when I read about apartments, more apartments. That sounds like rental to me when I think about an apartment. And I'm just wondering if there isn't some middle ground of building smaller condominiums or a mix of condominiums where it gives more opportunity for a broader section of people to have actually ownership in this beautiful land. I understand that maybe it won't be considered quote unquote affordable housing from our county median income standards or anything like that, but a bigger if it's possible to actually build smaller dwelling units, I'd like to see those potentially be a mix and have some that are for ownership, but smaller and at different price points to have good variety.
Councilmember Schoen?
Thank you, Council President Berge. I would just offer that I would support Councilmember Miller's suggestion to eliminate townhomes as a potential option under that Section 5 of the agreement. I'll always advocate for higher density housing, especially in our core downtown area, and I think that makes a lot of sense. We're, as we all know, in a housing shortage right now. We're still trying to climb our way out of that deficit, and this seems like a really obvious place to start making progress when it's city-owned property and we have a little bit more leverage in the situation. So I would be supportive of that potential change.
Okay. Councilmember Reed?
I would like to talk about some previous speaker, two previous speakers. First, I would be interested in removing the townhome stipulation. Second, I love what the previous speaker said about the privatization and about how this is the time when we have our leverage, and I do always want to look at development agreements like, okay, it's increasing our tax base, but what is it doing for the people besides that? And so if this offloading of environmental rehabilitation is a significant risk that we're offloading, that sounds like a positive thing. If it brings $700,000 back to our budget, I think that's significant. And yeah, that's so I'm willing to support this, even if it doesn't have extremely strong language around affordable housing. just because I think it does benefit us in relieving our capital improvement plan for the next little bit, so thanks.
Councilmember Mboga?
Thank you, Council President. This is a question for Council Mira. Are you suggesting to amend this one?
He has not proposed anything yet, so, but okay. Would you like to make a or, okay, Councilmember Miller?
Thank you, seeing how the discussion seems to have wrapped up. And I might also seek counsel from our council. If I were to strike the language for townhomes, this development agreement is many pages long. I haven't read every stipulation, seeing where that might impact it, but I guess I will move that in section 5. It currently reads, the property shall be utilized for construction of, and then from that point, I forward strike either townhomes with attached garages atop a new parking structure, and then also the word or, and then can pick up again with conventional. So striking out of townhomes, et cetera, and then picking up with only conventional multifamily housing featuring 3 floors, et cetera, et cetera. So, and then I guess I'll ask the city attorney if it's not better to do this and exactly strike out a thing and pass that and then have the development agreement go back to the developer, or because there may be many other things that are attached to this, perhaps table it and ask that it come back with rewritten, because there may be other things in here that I have not yet read that might need to be altered as well. So, City Attorney Nick, is there a better way of approaching this change in the agreement?
City Attorney Nick.
So it's before you signed by the developer as is. So obviously the negotiation with any change is an uncertainty. Stuart Schaefer was here last evening.
I don't see him tonight.
And I don't see him here today. And even so, it's a difficult thing to do to put that on a party at the spot. But certainly this particular issue was the subject of discussions I could share, and that option was something that was specifically sought by the developer for that flexibility to meet market demands. And while there, I think, is a shared desire to build as many units as both the site structurally can support and that the market can support, there is, again, some uncertainty. So I think, again, fair to say that there's a shared desire for greater units if in a few years the market would support it, but there's some uncertainty on that, and that's why the developer sought that provision. Whether he would accept that change, he'll have to decide that. In terms of how you want to proceed or council wants to proceed, either can be done. You could postpone this and we could pursue that concept, or you can pass an amendment that simply directs that option is removed, and I can handle the drafting and find all the spots. I don't need council to do that on the floor. That, or obviously the only certainty you have is approving it as is, because you have another party that will accept that in that state.
I guess I'll give it to you to get a seconder.
Okay.
Then I'll speak it more.
Okay. All right. Is there a seconder?
Sure, I'll second.
Okay. Motion and second. All right. Councilmember Miller?
Sure, I'll speak to it again. As I stated in the development agreement, there were 3 options for what to build out. One is the 8 unit of condos, another one is 48 bedrooms of apartments, and the other one is 69 bedroom apartments. So 2 other 3 options from the developer included the larger apartment options. Again, in the development agreement, talked about kind of tailoring to the future. If this goes forward and accepted from the developer for apartments, the other developers in the future will know this is what this is, and others may pursue townhomes. And then once again, circling back that we own this property. This is the chance for City Council to have policy enacted by this agreement on what we think is the best vision for housing and density in our core.
Councilmember Reed, would you like to speak to your second?
Yeah, I agree with previous speaker in the sense that I understand that this lot has been open for development, or it's been thinking about development for a long time, and I definitely, last thing I want to do is torpedo a good thing for a seemingly small change, but also I think there's broader opportunity, like previous speaker was saying, to put some input in, so.
Councilmember Serrano?
Thank you, Council President. I have a question. Does the language about the two versions of density on apartments, is the assumption there that that's rental? And maybe that's a question for Attorney Nick, of what's in there.
City Attorney Nick?
There's no requirement either way, and we haven't typically done that in other development agreements either, of sort of the ownership model. So residential units, value, and certainly in other deals we have sought some affordability metrics even within a market rate unit like this one. But how they finance it, which is really what rental or ownership is, do you finance it through individual sales and make it a condominium, or do you developer side finance it and have them rental? I think certainly the expectation is rental. We haven't had a condominium project in the city in a very long period of time, I think pushing 20 years. But the townhome unit would potentially look like a condominium unit, but whether it would or not ultimately would be up to the private owner.
So the language there, if we go with the amendment, it does not preclude individual owner occupied. It wouldn't preclude that.
It would not, even if there's a project that could come forward that is somewhere in between and has, say, 20 units of townhome, and they decide to make them owner occupied, it wouldn't be precluded. Again, really, the key point the developer was making is, making current commitments to the project on a future project, and I want some flexibility depending on what the market might look like when I start building in 3.5 years, and that's why that provision is in there.
Thank you.
Councilmember Brewster?
Thank you, Council President. So my understanding is that by the full build out of this, it needs a taxable value of 10 million. And so the likelihood that, well, I guess I shouldn't speak for, future economic trends, but to have 8 $1.2 million Riverside condos come on the market at this, all at the same time, and expect them to sell feels kind of maybe not all that likely to me, given the current economic climate. Maybe I'm totally wrong. I can easily imagine a developer wanting the kind of flexibility that City Attorney Nick spoke of. But also one thing to keep in mind is, like, when building in an urban core, no matter what you do, there's almost always going to be a premium to cost associated with building downtown, and there will always be a premium of cost associated with building next to a river. And so even if we're like, hey, you need to make these affordable, it's going to be really hard to do that. And so I guess I would just look at it as a gift that, staff doesn't have to deal with bidding out destruction of a ramp, and somebody else is going to take that on until it gets built out. The people in the neighborhood that we're concerned about parking will have some extra parking for the foreseeable future. And then in a few years' time, we'll have another $10 million worth of taxable real estate in the downtown that will, over time help us with our budget. I think I'm going to be voting against this amendment, and I think that's a good explanation as to why.
I would support a postponement, but I will not be supporting the amendment either. I feel like there's more. I'm a thinker, and I want to process what we would be. It feels like it's a big change, and the owner, I know he could be here. He was here last night. He's not here tonight, so I don't feel comfortable doing that tonight without more conversation. So I'll be voting against. And I'll also say too, when we did the Affordable Housing Task Force a long time ago, 8 years ago, and what came out of there is that we need more housing options at all levels too. And there are people looking for townhomes. I completely understand the point, but I'd be curious about like what is the developer thinking? Why did he put townhomes there? Is there a market there or not? Just more questions I have that I'm not ready to support the amendment. So, any other discussion? Councilmember Anderson?
Yeah, I appreciate the really thoughtful discussion. I'm inclined to support, would be inclined to support a postponement rather than an amendment, just so there's more processing time. So that's kind of where I'm at.
But we still probably muddied the waters, but the amendment's still in front of us, but we'll keep moving forward with that. So, City Clerk, please call the roll. So on the amendment.
Councilmember Brewster,
No.
Imboga,
No.
Miller,
Aye.
Otto,
No.
Reed,
No.
Schoen,
Aye.
Serrano,
No.
Anderson,
No.
Berkey,
No. So that fails 7-2, or do I say 2-7? Oh, either way works, okay. I should know this after 3 years. All right, so that amendment fails. So now we'll go to the overall motion. So any further discussion on that? Councilmember Serrano?
I'd like to make a motion that we postpone this
Okay.
item for further discussion, and I don't know how much it's appropriate to give guidance in terms of the further negotiation perhaps, or going back to the developer, but just kind of communicating that the council seems quite interested in greater density, and I personally would like to see more owner opportunities for smaller units.
Do we need a second to postpone? Yes. Oh, no.
You need both a second parliament for parliamentary reasons, but I also need
A date.
something more definitive from the mover on when it's
Yeah.
coming back.
So when would you like to bring it back? Councilmember Serrano?
Well, I guess my question would be, when can we, is it appropriate to direct our city attorney to bring some of this feedback back to the developer and see what can be brought back to council that might have more support?
City Attorney Nick, would you relay the conversation to the developer?
Yeah, I certainly will. It's always a little bit hard to say what council's position is, because you haven't done
Right.
anything that really tells me that with definitiveness. So on the motion to postpone it, I just need a date. Obviously, I think we have a structure that has immediate issues, that the city is gonna have to start expending dollars of, $700,000 or more within the next month or two. So, my suggestion would be to just postpone it a meeting. I can't tell you whether the developer will make any adjustments between now and then, but I think the urgency of the issue with the site requires, if you're gonna postpone it all, a very brief period for it.
I'm really comfortable with that, because I also feel like we've got a motivated developer, and everyone's motivated to make some decisions on this property, so, and the timeline, I think, is really important, so my motion will be to postpone for 2 weeks until we can meet on this again.
27th? And would you like a public hearing? Or no?
Sure.
So
I
the
mean, we didn't
26th?
have a public hearing this time,
Right.
on this topic, but I think that's a good idea.
Okay. So public postpone to, so a public hearing on the 26th, and then the legislative session on the 27th of January. Okay, is there a second?
I would.
Councilmember Anderson? Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Okay, City Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Mboga.
Yeah.
Miller.
Aye.
Otto.
Aye.
Reed.
Aye.
Schoen.
Aye.
Serrano.
Aye.
Anderson.
Aye.
Bergy.
Aye.
No.
Brewster.
Okay, that passes 8-1. Okay. On to establishing a new voting site. A resolution of establishing a new voting site for election Ward 7, City Clerk Kerner. And you're gonna walk up all the way to the podium.
I'll do it the legit way.
Yeah, that's good.
Give me
Make
a
it
chance to
official.
stretch my legs. Council President, council members. This item would move one voting ward from one polling site that we have on Water Street over to Lake Street. So you can see on this map, the green star is where this voting ward currently is, votes. We would like to move it to the yellow star. The reason being, Ward 7 has 653 registered voters, and with the polling site we have on Water Street, there's not a lot of room with the other wards there for space for lines to form. And when we have a heavy turnout election where there's a lot of people wanting to register, which the Water Street area does have a lot of election day registrations, we have a difficulty forming separate lines for all of the wards and for all the people who would like to register versus all the people who are already registered. So if we move this ward down to Lake Street, it would move about half of our unregistered voters over to Lake Street. And Lake Street has a much bigger polling site than the American Legion does. If this were to happen, we would send letters to all of the addresses where there are registered voters in Ward 7 to let them know about the change. And we'd have signage outside on election day to let them know that they would need to go to Lake Street for voting. And Lake Street is only 0.6 of a mile away, so it's only a few minutes either walk or by vehicle.
Great, thank you. Any questions? Councilmember Miller?
Thank you, Council President. Thank you. Would this be in effect then for the April elections?
Yes.
Okay, thanks.
I don't see any other questions, so thank you.
Thank you.
By motion made by Councilmember Reed, second by Councilmember Anderson, this item is, Councilmember Anderson, sorry. This item is moved. Any discussion? City Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Miller.
Aye.
Otto.
Aye.
Reed.
Aye.
Schoen.
Aye.
Serrano.
Aye.
Anderson.
Aye.
Bergy.
Aye.
Brewster.
Aye.
Mboga.
Aye.
And the item passes unanimously. Next, we have the BPAC 2026 Annual Work Plan. This is a resolution approving the Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Committee 2026 Annual Work Plan. Director Ness.
Good afternoon. The ordinance or resolution before you tonight is to approve the BPAC annual work plan. This is something that we bring to you each year to provide what BPAC did in the past year and what the plan is moving forward. Just to look at some of the items that BPAC covered in 2025. They provided input to staff on the 2026 Capital Improvement Program projects related to the bike and pedestrian facilities on those projects or within those projects or connected to those projects. They also worked with our planning group on the Century Code update and contributed to another successful bike week within our community, and also worked with outside communities on promoting that bike week. One thing that was brought forward to council was the speed limit on the trails with help of Councilmember Miller and implementing those speed limits and signage within our trail system. Moving forward, the committee did approve the work plan that was put together to them or for them with help from the engineering department and also the community development department. Ongoing projects would be community education, continued input on capital improvement projects with relationship to bike and pedestrian facilities. Looking at trail etiquette, best practices more in depth was one of the ongoing items for discussion with the group, as well as a complete streets policy, and then trail index condition map and working with our staff on prioritizing trail improvements within the community. The work plan was included within the packet, and here are just some graphics of the work plan itself. If there's any questions related to that, I am open for questions.
Thank you, Director Ness. Any questions? Oh, Councilmember Hirsch. You don't have to raise your hand.
Council member.
Oh, sorry, City Manager Hirsch.
I just
Doing it
wanted to
again.
mention to you all that, we're working on the strategic plan. And so as you get these work, boards, commissions, and committee work plans, if you can think about ideally how all of the plans would sort of nest together and be consistent across them all. And I think that this one is, but just if you can sort of try to pay attention to what we have in the work plan in terms of the larger strategic plan and what's in these smaller work plans to see how they match up, that would be appreciated.
Great, thanks. Any other comments? Or questions, sorry, we're at questions. Any questions? No? Okay, all right, thank you, Director Ness. Okay. And a motion by Councilmember Serrano, second by Councilmember Brewster. This item is moved. Any discussion? Councilmember Miller?
Thank you, Council President. As a city council member for BPAC, I just kind of asked them what things are they most interested in this work plan that I want to highlight to City Council. It's number one on the list, the complete streets policy. Just for a definition, complete streets is an approach to planning, designing, and building streets that enable safe access for all users, including pedestrians, bicyclists, motorists, and transit riders of all ages and abilities. Mainly turning away from a totally car-centric streets approach to a complete streets approach. It's been on their work plan for quite a while, but they have kind of doubled their interest in getting some sort of formative process out of that this year. And they're also very extremely interested in the redesign of the Dewey Street Bridge. So you might be hearing from members of the Dewey Street, members of BPAC as we move forward with the Dewey Street Bridge. I know there's been communication lately about possible suggestions on the profiling of that one, and they are also something of great interest to BPAC, and I just wanted to pass that along as their council member.
Thank you. And comments or discussion? Okay, seeing none, City Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Miller.
Aye.
Otto.
Aye.
Reed.
Aye.
Schoen.
Aye.
Serrano.
Aye.
Anderson.
Aye.
Berge.
Aye.
Brewster.
Aye.
Imboga.
Aye.
And that passes unanimously. And we have our City Manager Evaluation Ad Hoc Committee. So report from the Chair of the City Manager Evaluation Ad Hoc Committee and discussion of the City Manager Evaluation Timeline, Process, and Contract. And Councilmember Jessica Schoen.
Yep, thank you, Council President. So the City Manager Evaluation Committee met earlier this month, and we're here providing an update to Council this afternoon regarding the current contract period and performance review associated with it. We propose to follow a process consistent with recent cycles, which would include a survey to council members and to staff that interact with our city manager often. And then we would perform or go through the performance review in February. And then one note is that we understand the purpose of this committee is really to focus on the process for setting a performance review process. And it is not specifically related to contract negotiation, but also those two processes are very closely linked and the timing of them is related to one another. So There is a note here, we did discuss that briefly in sort of future review cycles and what this committee might review or provide as a recommendation. But we propose to hold off on having that conversation and bringing forth those recommendations until after terms of a new contract would be established. So that's our committee update.
Thank you. Is there any questions from council? Councilmember Serrano?
Thank you, Council President, and thank you, Councilmember Schoen, for that good summary. I just wanted to also kind of say one more piece of it, which is, you know, the ad hoc committee is making proposals that we use a similar process to before in terms of a survey and evaluation, and we know that contract negotiation will be coming forth. That both of those things, the intention is that we would discuss as a full council both of those items in a closed session. So I just wanted to make that.
Okay, thank you. Is this something we're voting on, or or like an acceptance? Yeah, Councilmember Schoen, yeah.
Yeah, thanks, Council President. My understanding was this was just a committee report out, so I don't
Okay.
think there's any action that needs to be taken, but I would accept an alternative direction from City Attorney Nick or City Manager Hirsch.
Just a report, but is there any? I mean, we do like to vote. Right. City Attorney Nick?
Catch up to your spot in the agenda, but none is attached. I don't attend those meetings or know what was expected, but usually when things hit the business agenda, there is an action associated with them. So I heard it down here, I don't know if that was Councilmember Reed or not, but a motion to accept the report, I think, would be in order.
Okay.
Yeah, I would motion to accept that report.
Okay.
Point of information, or,
Yeah.
it does say on our cover sheet, action none. In the agenda. It says, so, it says none, but,
Well, it probably doesn't hurt to vote on it.
well then, you can unrescind your,
To approve or to accept? Okay, we're gonna motion to accept.
Motion to accept.
Councilmember Serrano?
I think my thinking is that we can all agree that we're going to talk about the process in detail and review contract proposal in a closed session. That's kind of the next step, it seems to me. And this ad hoc committee is sort of advisory, but it seems like we would agree maybe as a body that that's the next step. Does that make sense?
I think motion to accept the report and as the report as Jessica, or as Councilmember Schoen put out there, so it's kinda, would you feel comfortable doing that, Councilmember Serrano?
Yes,
Okay,
yes. I'm just wanting to make sure that everybody's in agreement that we're moving on to the next step.
forward, yes, okay, all right, thank you. Sure, we're all on the same page, so we do need a second, I think. Or do we have a second? I think Councilmember Reed made the motion, and then,
Can I second?
yeah,
I'm
you
the
can,
chair of
sure,
it. I'll second.
we'll do that. Okay, so we have a motion by Councilmember Reed and a second by Councilmember Schoen. Would you like to speak to your motion, Councilmember Reed?
Yeah, no.
Okay, Councilmember Schoen?
I don't have anything additional to add.
Okay, all right, thanks. Any questions, discussion? Okay, City Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Otto,
Aye.
Reed,
Aye.
Schoen,
Aye.
Serrano,
Aye.
Anderson,
Aye.
Berkey,
Aye.
Brewster,
Aye.
Imboga, Miller.
no.
Did you say no? Okay. All right. Was Councilmember Miller the last one?
Yes.
Okay. All right, so that passes 8-1. All right, now we're on to ordinances for action. So Parking, stopping, and standing prohibited. It's item number 14, ordinance amending table 7 entitled Parking, Stopping, and Standing Prohibited of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Eau Claire to remove parking restrictions near North High School on Uranus Avenue in response to a petition received. Director Ness.
I'll just place the exhibit back up on the screen again related to this item. I did not receive any additional comments or communication related to this item.
Great, thank you. All right, no questions I'm missing, don't see any lights. So on a motion by Councilmember Mboga, seconded by Councilmember Miller, this item is moved. Any discussion? Councilmember Shaw?
Thank you, Council President Berge. I just wanted to highlight that as was discussed last night, and we had a speaker from the public that came to discuss the process that's gone into this, and just highlight for everybody tonight that this is very long time coming. I've been working with this constituent who's prompted the conversation around circulating a petition for over a year, and I know that it was mentioned, I kind of asked the question last night about how many of the petitioners signed in favor of this, and I know there was a mention that 2 of them did not, 2 of the 14, and I know that, so Heather DeLuca, the president of the Airport Neighborhood Association, spoke to that, but just for clarity, my understanding is those 2 residents that didn't sign the petition, it was just related to them not being present, couldn't get in touch with them, the properties being rentals, etc. So I'm excited to support this and be responsive to constituent feedback, and just sort of some data directly from the residents who'd be affected with this minor change in the airport neighborhood, and just want to take a moment to, I guess, acknowledge all of that work and the process that we followed, and thank President of the Airport Neighborhood Association, Heather DeLuca, for her work in this as well. So thank you.
Thank you, thanks. Any other comments? Okay. And City Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Reed.
Aye.
Shaw.
Aye.
Serrano.
Aye.
Anderson.
Aye.
Berge.
Aye.
Brewster.
Aye.
Mboga.
Aye.
Miller.
Aye.
Otto.
Aye.
That passes unanimously. Next up, left turns prohibited. It's ordinance amending table 12 entitled Left Turn Prohibited of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Eau Claire to restrict turning movements at several intersections in response to safety concerns, removing outdated intersection information. Director Ness.
Good afternoon again.
Good afternoon.
This item, I did receive additional information. I had one email that came in yesterday afternoon or early today that I'll just read parts of it for you from an individual that lives on Riverview Drive. That she said, I hope this decision is not limited to only weekdays during rush hours, is especially dangerous on weekends in the summer for cars hauling boats home from the river. I know there's a reroute option that directs cars to take Marquette to Star as an alternative entrance to 312. In spite of the inconvenience, I would be incredibly grateful to only be able to turn right at the North Crossing from either side of Riverview. So this shows another viewpoint from another individual. I just wanted to share that information with you. I did have some follow-up to questions that I apologize was sent out later this afternoon about 3:30, but did address, there were 4 additional questions that were kind of brought up during the discussion period last night. The first of, has staff given any consideration to the timing of the installation for the no left turn installation with respect to the Marquette Street reconstruction project? And with the reconstruction project, we have acknowledged that access during the reconstruction is going to be difficult. We are going to have to look at construction staging. We'll have to look at detours. We'll have to look at, does it make sense to not enforce these restrictions during the construction time frame? So it is something that we've had in the back of our minds, and just have not gotten to the detail of the construction staging yet related to that project. So we have looked at alternative routes. There are alternative routes, though they are longer, may take a little more planning to take an alternative route or plan extra time to try to navigate the intersection or plan an alternate route by taking a right turn at the Riverview intersection during those time frames. So the short answer to have we considered it, yes, in broad detail, not in granular detail. What are the plans for the Marquette Street reconstruction project? It is a reconstruction project that we'll be presenting to council. It is upsizing our storm main in that area to accommodate the overall stormwater system, help with that. We'd also be replacing water and sanitary utilities, so it is a longer project. And unfortunately, there's not a lot of alternative routes out from this long section of roadway on Marquette. There is a cul-de-sac road that goes to the south that has Marquette only to access. So we'll have to be looking at accommodating residents' access throughout the entire project. If it's phased, if we build a bypass lane, just trying to look at alternatives to maintain access to those residents on Marquette Street too during this time frame with that project. Is the DOT or city able to delay installation of the signage? We could. The purpose of the signage is to address a safety concern. So, if we install it when the ground thaws and we have the ability to pull the wiring for the illuminated signage, we can start at that time enforcing. We could cover the signage and wait until after the project, the Marquette Street project, to start enforcement. But I do believe that if we were to implement it right away, it's an improvement to safety immediately. It allows us to monitor the timeframes which are being proposed and make adjustments if needed after we have that short period of time to do some observations. Another question was related to the likeliness of the following actions. One was no left turns on weekends, and incorporating that into the restrictions. That's something that we heard during the public comment session last night. The way that the ordinance is being presented is not time specific or day specific within the ordinance. It is written to give the city engineer direction on the ability to change that based off of data. So that's where our monitoring period and public comment period come in related to that. We can do observations, we can make adjustments as we see fit related to the safety of the intersection. So that's written to be left open-ended for observation and adjustments. What's the likeliness of traffic signals being installed or a roundabout being installed? This intersection is the jurisdiction of the Department of Transportation. The city can work with them. We'd be doing analysis and presenting to the DOT, which would have to provide acceptance of whatever is proposed. At this time, traffic signal warrants are not met at this intersection, so they would not accept traffic signals as installation. Related to roundabout installation, that's typically looked at if traffic signals are looked at. The safety, I did provide a little more background on safety information that I emailed to you, but it does not meet WISDOT's thresholds for safety improvements at this time. So where the city is at with our budget, I'm looking at our local intersections and safety improvements related to the streets that we have control over with our capital project. I do agree that there is safety concern at this location, and we're monitoring it along with the DOT, but this is their jurisdiction at this time, and I need to focus my budget on the intersections within our city under our jurisdiction. So at this time, I would say from the city's side, traffic signals or a roundabout are not a immediate construction alternative that we would look at. I think this incremental change is a way to address safety concerns, and we can expand or adjust it moving forward. And I can take any questions if there are any.
Councilmember Otto?
Well, thank you, Council President. Is there data out there on weekend versus weekday traffic, or was it only collected at certain random points or random days?
I would have to go back to the data, but my understanding is that we did have data from weekend, weekday.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Schoen?
Thank you, Council President. So Director Ness, I think you already stated this, but I just want, for my own clarity, when I go speak with my north side constituents, to be able to relay accurate information. The current times obviously are based off of the current traffic count data that we have most recently available, but based on what we observe once the changes go into effect, there's opportunity to adjust the timeframes to reflect real-time feedback. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Thank you.
Same question. Okay, and then, do you know, I'm curious about if would it require an amendment to postpone it until after the Marquette project is done? Or is that something, you probably need direction from council?
You could just give me direction.
Okay. Do you have a sense on if the neighborhood would rather, because we've kind of heard both, like wait until the street is done, or would they want the safety improvements installed right away? I mean, Councilmember Schoen might have a good sense too, but I'm curious.
I'd say feedback that we heard from what I have heard and from talking with staff was really, we heard from one end, close the intersection entirely, to we don't want any restrictions.
Yeah.
So it was really, at this time, we think from the safety side of things, implementing these restrictions will provide the best guidance for safe and
Right away.
movements through the intersection.
Okay. Right away, though.
Right away.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anything to add to that, Councilmember Schoen?
Yeah, I would say I've heard very mixed feedback as well. I've had constituents come thank me after meetings and say this is something they've been, an intersection that's given them a lot of stress, and they're excited to see some change being made. I continue to hear from pretty much everyone that they would prefer a stoplight,
Yeah.
which, as we've talked about, just isn't feasible at this point, and DOT isn't supportive of that change. So I think that people really would be I think basically they're very excited that there is a change happening, but there's definitely a lot of folks too that I've heard from that are very opposed to this, and are not excited to see this change coming. So it's really difficult, I think, to share what general consensus has been. I think to me, the practical side of me thinks that getting the changes on the landscape sooner to increase safety, as soon as we can is helpful. It is helpful for me to hear staff share sort of the different options that might be available during the Marquette Street reconstruction project, where these signs could be covered entirely. We could cease enforcement during that period of time, because I understand the resident feedback that that's going to be a lot of changing conditions for drivers to have to navigate. So I think that there is no consensus probably on the north side about
Okay.
what their preference is.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, that's helpful. Thanks. All right, thank you, Director Ness. Okay, so motion by Councilmember Schoen, and second by Councilmember Reed. This item is moved. Any discussion? Councilmember Moga?
Thank you, Council President. I'd like to make amendment. Yesterday we had a resident from Riverview Drive said that the weekend is so busy, which is almost the same as the weekdays. So I would like to make amendment. So instead of 5 days a week, it should be 7 days a week.
Okay, is there a second?
Um,
Councilmember Miller?
More of a point of question of, currently in the agenda item, it doesn't actually, as I think Director Ness said, it doesn't actually list specifically here. It just says during specified hours as determined by the city engineer. So I don't think the language is a change, but maybe the amendment could be that we recommend that the city engineer do there's no text to change, is what I'm trying to say here. So maybe just say, get consensus from the council if you wanted to instruct the city engineer to do so.
Okay, is there a second? Councilmember Miller?
I'll second.
Okay. So a motion and second to include weekends, to recommend to include weekends with the signal, with the no left turn prohibited. Councilmember Moga, would like to speak to that?
Yeah, the main reason I included the main reason I included the weekend because the resident said Riverview, their people use the boat for their summer fun. So remember, you have a big boat with maybe SUV. When you turn, it's more risk when you see car coming from the west and the east of Highway 312. That's where I'm coming from. So it would be nice for us to include the weekends.
Okay. Councilmember Miller?
Thank you. Yeah, I was tacitly in favor of having this go into effect immediately, even before the construction on Marquette starts, because we're trying to maximize safety. And the people who did speak last night all seem to be in support of having this 7 days a week, not just 5. So I was listening to the people who spoke to us last night that they want to see on weekends as well. So I support that decision to have this on weekends as well from the get-go.
Okay. Anyone else? Councilmember Otto?
Oh, thank you, Council President. So it sounds like there's already language here that leaves it at the discretion of the city engineer or the professionals involved. And we don't really know whether or not it's true, not having seen the data, what the traffic looks like on weekends. And it sounds like it's really seasonal based on what the public comments are. Like, people aren't taking out a lot of boats this time of year. So I'm gonna vote no. I like the idea. I think we can leave it as flexible as it is.
Any other comments? Councilmember Schoen?
Yeah, thank you, Council President. I think I will also not be supporting this amendment. Property is directly adjacent to commercial property, I believe in 2 directions. It's on a thoroughfare road. He's done a lot to already screen the semi. None of his immediate neighbors, to my knowledge, have any concerns or aesthetic, take any aesthetic issue with the situation. So I'm just looking, I guess, I've been working with staff to identify some possible solutions that would come to council. And as City Manager Hirsch outlined, I think before staff really work on that further, there's interest in understanding whether full council would be supportive of that, with the understanding that this is a delicate balance of making sure that, we're not changing rules that would negatively affect a large population in the community. So I guess that's all I'll say for now. I don't know if that captures really the point we're at.
So the idea is, we want to open up a path for an exception for this kind of, for storing these kind of vehicles in a residential neighborhood, or not? And you can see a photo of it. It's a large semi on a pretty small lot, but it is in a neighborhood that has a lot of mixed uses, industrial and commercial. So I guess I'll just right now ask that if you guys think about it and have thoughts, you let me know. And if we can have a work session on it at the next meeting, or a council member Schoen can bring forth the proposal and you guys can deliberate about it in the session. Does
Okay.
that sound good?
Yeah, that sounds great. Just to remind, so this is who Craig spoke last night on this issue. Okay. Any other announcements? No. Okay. Any announcements from council? I have something, we were invited, and I told Eric that I'd share it tonight, to Learn to Cube event on, February 21st from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. at Wagner Lanes, and council was invited. I'm sure everyone is invited. He told us to bring friends, so I invite you all. And there's going to be pizza and t-shirts, it sounds like, and a good time. And we are the Coop capital of the world, so we should show up. All right. Oh, North America? I can't say the world? I'm saying the world. Okay, fine. I think the Dome. So there's an email in our inbox. Okay.
Are we able, do you think we can transition right into the work session?
Sure, we can transition into but if people can just go to the restroom, if they need to go to the restroom.
Can they
or-
just come and go as during, as,
Yeah, let's
okay.
do it. We do have to adjourn first, though.
Yeah.
So this meeting is adjourned. Hi,
And this-
welcome, Anna.
Thank you, council members and staff. I'm so excited to be here. So we're gonna share slides. You can move ahead. Oh, okay. Okay, so I'm here to talk about One Better Way, the Day Resource Center. So as council knows, it's a combination of Community Haven House and Western Dairylands Housing and Family Services. You can see on the screen our beautiful building. On the left side is Western Dairylands Housing and Family Services, and on the right is Community Haven House, or the Day Resource Center. So updates, Community Haven House. So Hope Gospel moved to this location on December 29th. The prior location on Washington Street, the old pawn shop, has been closed. I spoke with Lisa, the manager, and Chris before coming. They're sorry they couldn't be here tonight. They are averaging 80 guests a day. With last week, they saw a high of 104 guests. So lots of folks. Partner offices, that is really what the Day Resource Center was about, offering free flex space for partners. Those are being utilized every day. Every time I go in there are partnering agencies meeting with guests. Additional partners are joining in February. You can see our list at onebetterway.org.partners or for more information. The only issue that they're seeing right now is transportation has currently been an issue for some clients. It has been difficult with the snowy weather to get from Sojourner up the big hill on One Better Way to the Haven House. We've had volunteers from Hope Gospel that have been providing rides to folks to and from Sojo to Community Table. We are hoping that some of that is alleviated when bus service starts on January 26th. So they are very excited about that. Overwhelming positive feedback from guests and staff. So I have a few quotes from folks. So I've been homeless in other places. This place is the best for services. I can tell that the community cares. Thank you so much. There's room for everyone and we never will fight here. This place is awesome, but I don't want to be here. I'm gonna get better so I don't have to be here for long. Lisa, the manager of Haven House, said that everyone seems to be much happier here and we are enjoying the space. One of the guests said this space made them feel special. So, things are going very well. If you've been in there, it is a calming presence. It is just wonderful. Every time I go in there, I am so excited to see it and talk to the guests. They're meeting with agencies and professionals. They're reading. They're, living life, and not and with dignity. They're not on display on Washington Street. So. Western Dairyland, so our housing and family services staff are moving in right now. That office will be open to the public on Friday. And our fundraising continues for the $6.4 million goal. So we've currently raised over $4.2 million of the 6.4. Very grateful to council and the city of Eau Claire for the $500,000 initial support. We wouldn't have gotten started without it. Funding, our efforts continue. Guided tours are available, and we're gonna have an open house. It's been postponed. It was supposed to be in February. They wanna make it bigger. So we're gonna have it in the spring, and we'll be updating you. But I'm here to answer any questions. I just wanna emphasize partners, so we're better together. Working with all these other agencies, and you know, a lot of you and I, a lot of us has spoken personally about this over the years, but you know, working with other organizations, we can do more. So I'm very proud of the work we've done. So questions?
Great, thanks, Anna. Looks like Clara has a question.
Thank you, Emily. Thank you so much, Anna. I really appreciate the update. I took a tour very early on, many months ago.
You've got to come back.
And I'm just curious if you can tell us the construction build out, the bathrooms, the showers, the
Yep.
Laundry, storage.
It's all done.
Is everything done?
Everything is done. And so we, you know, I was in there the other day, and there was a client with a walker who came out of the bathroom and said, you can't understand what it means for me to just be able to get in and out of the bathroom, you know, because the previous space did not have accessible restrooms. As you may know, it only had a conditional use permit that the council was extending, so people didn't die in the street of the elements. But now they're ADA accessible. So the renovations are complete. We really wanted to make sure that the Haven House side was done first. That's why Western Dairyland said we're just moving now, because the lease ended on the old Haven House December 31st. So we knew if there was a delay at all that we could risk people dying on the street. And so we had to get that done. That side's done. Now our side is done and we're moving in. We just have to raise the rest of the money, so thankful for your support.
Thanks. Josh has a question?
Yeah, Anna, it goes on that, raising the rest of the money. 4.2 out of 6.4, it looks great, but it's only 64.5% of the way, and that still leaves 2.2. How is that going from your perspective?
It's going well.
The rest of the funding.
So we're applying for a lot of grants right now. So again, I've said this is Western Dairyland is primarily grant funded agency. We've been around for 60 years. This is our first capital campaign. This is literally our first rodeo. So according to the experts, Crescendo Fundraising, who are working with us, now is the time that we are applying for grants. There are certain grants from foundations and others that you cannot receive until you've raised over 50% of the funding. So they are very confident. We have an excellent steering committee. Just last week, I received a call that we received a $250,000 gift from a local couple in Eau Claire. So, yeah.
Great, thanks. Hey, I'll say I happened to stop by there today with Katie, and it's great. So I highly recommend. And you're right; it's very peaceful and quiet, and
it is.
It feels good in there and
it
welcoming.
Feels
and
so good.
Yeah.
Like I just can't. Yeah. I can't say this enough. I mean, this is we had the opportunity to do something good, and we're doing it.
Yeah.
So.
And the offices with the services were full, like you said too. So they're meeting with folks, getting services. So which is important.
So please stop by. So.
Yeah.
As you are excited, everybody's excited. So that's the community.
Thank you. So I'm grateful. So it's been wonderful.
Okay, so thank you, and but you stick around because maybe there'll be more questions.
I have a hard stop. I have to leave at 5:45. I'm sorry.
You guys have 5 more minutes if you.
Yes.
Can I just ask, how do you see all the different initiatives fitting together?
I've always said that we're a yes and. So people have said to me, well, what if someone brings tiny homes into Eau Claire? I said, bring them. What if someone we want it all. So Kevin and I talk. It's a 3-legged stool. We need all of these things. We need services, emergency service at night for people like Sojo. We need emergency services in the day for people like the Day Resource Center, but we also need housing. So, we Western Dairyland, and hopefully that there's more coming out this year that Western Dairyland is a part of to add to that, but we need it all. It's a yes and.
Okay. So. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you so much for what you've done, and I agree. It's just such a bright and positive place.
It is wonderful. So so please stop on in. So all right, thank you. Take care.
Right. Okay, thanks, Anna.
Thank you.
Oh, really clap.
Okay, now the Angie and Angie with any supporting people as well.
Do they ever call you Angie Squared?
The Angie Squared, the Angies, yeah, all of it. And thanks for having us back. We were here a few months back, I know, just to kind of talk a little bit about the Housing Our Neighbors Collaborative. Yeah. Stephanie did mention a number of the partners involved in that core team right now. We are also working with community partners like Anna, who was just up here, and wanted to say a special thank you to Stephanie for her involvement and the city's involvement in this process as well. Just to give a little update, we now have a logo, Housing Our Neighbors Planning Collaborative. And we have put together a draft plan of our community strategy. We are in the process of sharing that with community partners to get feedback. And we involve those community partners along the way as well. Can I advance slides on my own right here? Is that okay? So the goal of this collaborative is that homelessness is brief, rare, and non-reoccurring in Eau Claire County. Whoops, wrong way. My first day under the rock, sorry. Housing Our Neighbors Planning Collaborative, this just shows the membership of the people that are involved on the core planning team, which is the City County Health Department, Department of Human Services, the Chamber, Jonah, City of Eau Claire, City of Altoona, for goodness sake, and LEAB, which is the Lived Experience Advisory Board. So those are the individuals that have been a part of making this draft plan come together. And then Angie Stokes is gonna take it from here.
Thanks. So as Angie said, we have our report done. It's going out to our service providers. The report provides information on the current state of homelessness in Eau Claire. So we, as Angie said, gathered a bunch of feedback, interviewed lots of folks, talked to lots of people. That background is given in the report. And then we sorted through all of that. We did not do that alone. We had a lot of help from UW Extension. There's a public health fellow who's sitting in the back, Catherine Kerwin, who is a genius and helped a ton with sorting through data. And came up with 6 strategies. So the 6 strategies are what would have to happen in Eau Claire in order for us to get to functional zero, as Angie said. So 6 strategies align this system. Lots of feedback that we got indicated that we had some holes in our system, meaning that depending on where you enter the system, you might have a different experience and there might be some barriers. So our goal is to knock down those barriers and have, regardless if you come into the Day Resource Center or Department of Human Services or Sojourner, wherever you're coming in, you're gonna have the same positive experience. We sharing data, so using data to drive instructions driving data to drive, decision making. I'm so sorry.
We knew what you were
Thank you.
saying.
No, it's great. Decision making came back as a big thing. So we make decisions, but how do we know what we're doing is actually impacting the folks positively that we're working with? Strengthening outreach, so going out rather than expecting folks to come into the Department of Human Services or expecting folks to come into Beacon House or expecting folks to come to the library, whatever, we're going out and meeting people where they're at. That sometimes means we're going to community table. It sometimes means we will need to go out under the bridge. So meeting people where they're at across the county. Trying to prevent homelessness whenever possible. It is much easier to keep somebody homed than to try to get them rehomed. And then ensuring affordable housing. It sounds like you all have that in the back of your heads, appreciate that. And then doing community outreach. So by community outreach, really making folks, regardless of what their home status is, a part of our community. So how do we bring folks together? How do we destigmatize what it means to be homeless? That came out repeatedly. So those were the 6 strategies that we would have to pull together in order to get to functional zero. The plan does not tell how those will be achieved. That is something to come. So we have to, as a community, decide what it is, where we can all fit into that. And the big thing to emphasize is that we're not looking to duplicate services or duplicate work. The goal is to, we have a limited amount of resources. So how do we take the resources that we have and bring those together and build on what works? We've spent a significant amount of time talking with other communities that have been able to lower, in particular, their unsheltered numbers. So trying to build on what works. Next, as Angie indicated, we're sending out the plan to service providers. That will come back to the executive team for feedback. Scott Rogers has slotted us next Friday, the 23rd, for exit issues. So I see some of you there. It'd be great to see you there next Friday. We have a website that we have drafted that will be under the Department of Human Services on the county website. So that's getting done. We plan to have metrics on there with goals. And then as data is collected, that dashboard will be on there so that we're, fully transparent in the work that's happening and then also fully transparent in the outcomes that the collaborative is getting. Any questions?
Any questions? Clara?
I just want to applaud. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you,
Sure.
thank you.
Sure. Lots and lots of help from lots of people.
Great. And Jess?
I'm wondering, I know that you showed the slide with all of the different partners involved, and obviously City of Eau Claire is one of those partners.
Mhm.
I'm just wondering, like with all the strategies that you mentioned, like what is the role of the city, or how can we be a good partner in this effort?
Oh, thanks, Jess. I think that is largely for you to determine. So looking at those 6 strategies, folks coming in where they think they can be supportive, logically, I would assume a city would most fit under affordable housing. But I think that's something that related, I heard you talking about your strategic plan earlier and your different department plans. So I think where you see yourselves is the best place for you to come in.
I would agree with that and just add the aligning the system part too, and I think that has already started, but I think we need to continue that effort moving forward as well.
Mm-hmm. That's great. Other or questions?
Do you guys want to share a little bit about how you see it all connected? And or John or?
Sure. So looking at, Anna was smart when she said and. So you need, in order to have a functional response to homelessness, you have to have lots of different partners doing lots of different things. So I think our niche is how do you get housing with services? You can't do that without having day shelter and a night shelter and emergency services and services through Department of Human Services and Lutheran Social Services working with folks at Gaining Grounds. You can't have all of that. You can't have getting people into housing without all of that. So I think those are all pieces, and I think folks, all of those different service providers will have to, similar to the city, determine where they're going to fit in those 6 strategies, with the idea that folks can come in as they can and, enter at any point. Does that help? Okay.
So just to pull back a little bit, good evening. So thank you for
evening.
having me here this evening. I just want to pull back a little bit from the specific look of homelessness and housing that we were talking about. Let's pull it back a little bit and look at housing overall, right? And we look at a strong, healthy community and meeting people where they're at. People are at different situations throughout life. And one thing I've noticed is that we really need a housing assessment that encompasses the whole process. And from earlier discussions, I could hear about some of the dialogue about the housing, what should we do here. One of the things that I'm passionate about is, from a county's perspective, is to look at a housing assessment that can be done for Eau Claire County that takes parts of the challenges that we're all seeing, ties in the chapters, the Day Resource Center, our community partners. We have great services, ties those in where appropriate, and then starts looking at the housing needs. Specifically, what do we need? We know we need affordable housing, but what about the other housing? Senior centers, just the different ideas that are out there. Let's put that together in an overall package to look at a healthy community and how that all ties together, because it does. And they complement each other. And so that's an initiative at the county level that we're going to continue to work on, and our group is doing that through meetings currently. And I'm hopeful that we can continue to work on that partnership to provide guidance specifically to each municipality, because we're unique in what we're looking for housing. And what is that data? What does the forecast look like? The last one we did in 23 had older data. I think it was 13 or 2014. We now have data from 2024. So I think we need to refresh in that and then expand the scope to a more larger envelope and some chapters where we can kind of really add in the crisis services and then the housing our neighbors with services models as well. So it was fun to share that. Thanks.
Great, thank you. Oh, Clara?
Thank you, Emily. So again, kudos to everybody. I so appreciate that we're gonna have updated data. Does the data include, I see City of Eau Claire, City of Altoona, the villages in the county, so Fairchild, Fall Creek, can we talk about, is that gonna be broken out on the dashboard and
That will be part of the scope, correct, as we go forward. So, and there is a plan out there. St. Croix County recently did one that is countywide. So the participation as we move through that process will be to reach out to the municipalities and talk to them and get their specific involvement, and hoping through Regional Plan Commission that we can accomplish that through that vehicle.
So involvement, but also it'd be great to have like as
And
much
that information,
clarity on
correct.
data that
Yep,
we can
yep.
have.
Yep,
those
exactly.
More granular areas. Thank you.
Yep.
I do have I know Altoona isn't here, but with the county and your work probably you know, but do you have any idea what I know they have a windfall with their TID closing, River Prairie. Do they have a plan with what they're gonna do with their millions for affordable housing?
They're doing really spectacular, kind of out of the box housing development. So they would be great people to ask. So I can just tell you that they're really working hard to maximize those dollars and do that in a way that meets the needs of the community. So lots of
housing
work are being done there.
development?
Yeah,
Okay.
affordable housing, and then also affordable housing for all, not just one demographic. So thinking about that holistically.
Mm-hmm. Great, thanks.
Yeah.
Emily?
Oh, thanks. Yeah, I have a question about the assessment. I'm not sure kind of like where you're at in the process. There's just a question I was curious about, but if it's too late to ask a question for it, like I'd like to know how many people or where people are who have a house that's too big for them but cannot afford to downsize, because I think we see that a lot. And I think that very often as policymakers, like we all have a need for net new construction, but sometimes I worry that that need is at odds with reconfiguring existing spaces so that we can get people housed. And I don't know the math on that or anything like that, but it would be helpful to understand if that's happening, where it's happening, and how we could, if there's a cheaper way to intervene.
I do have a little information. I know the city of Altoona is looking at providing assistance for repair and remodeling. So some of that is there. It's difficult to get specific data on that, you're right, but that is one of the areas that we want to focus on. So it is cheaper to remodel and keep housing stock in good shape rather than to build new in some cases. So that's definitely one of the formulas we want to look at. And it's really preliminary. That's not, the goal here is through EDC and get some private-public partnerships for funding the study. We're estimating maybe around $30,000 for costs, but it's not been penned yet. So we are in the early stages. So we'll continue to work together on that scoping of that project and those chapters as we go forward. Yep. Thank you.
Great, thanks.
I just want to reiterate my appreciation for the county. We're just so happy that you guys are taking this on, this weight, and you have a different set of tools than the city does, but they're complementary, and we are just 100% there with you and appreciate you being willing to step up, and I find it just very hopeful and exciting. Okay, sorry, now we'll have Jessica.
Thank you. Hello.
Hello, good evening. Good to be back with you again. So, I'm Jessica Olsenby with the City Housing Authority. Okay, so I thought it would be helpful. I've heard at least a couple of times that it might be helpful to provide a bit of education to the council about the programs that are offered by the Housing Authority currently, and then I'll move into initiatives that we've been working on and supportive of. So this is just a general overview. I have a little chart that shows income limits. These are set by, so most of our funding comes from the federal government, Department of Housing and Urban Development, and the income limits are set by HUD and updated annually. So that's what it looks like currently, and it does change each year. So we administer we own and manage 291 rental units. This is HUD subsidized housing. So tenants who are living in these units, they pay rent based on what their income is. If their income goes up or down, the rent is changed accordingly, so that they pay 30% of their gross income toward rent and utility costs. We have 9 rental units of what we call our affordable housing program. These were purchased using home funding in the past. So it's a flat rent amount, but affordable to folks at low income. We also administer about 20 vouchers for tenant-based rental assistance. So this is a rental subsidy that folks take with them and use on the private market. So tenants pay rent to their landlords, and the Housing Authority pays the difference so that they're paying 30% of their income toward rent and utility costs. We have a home ownership program as well. So we are able to purchase using CDBG funds, actually, community development block grant funds, 1 or 2 single family homes each year, and rehabilitate those homes, and then they're sold to folks at or below these income limits looking to be home buyers. So kind of a first time home buyer program. We also with that offer a subsidy, a deferred 0 interest loan that half of which is forgivable over the course of 10 years. So that allows folks to reduce the amount that they need to borrow from a primary lender at, with interest. So that's a great program. We have 2 currently, one on Talmadge Street and one on Highland Avenue. We also administer housing rehabilitation loan programs. I heard the city of Altoona is looking to ramp up something like that. We do have that available here in the city. Community development block grant funds are used for that program, where we provide 0 interest loans to income eligible folks within the city to make repairs to their homes. And then some funds are offered as forgivable grants as well. So for lead-based paint remediation as an example. Okay, so that's kind of a snapshot of the Housing Authority programs that we operate day in and day out. Some housing related initiatives that I've been a part of, and so I've been with the City Housing Authority for almost 2 years, not quite, and some of the things that I have been focusing on are reducing barriers to accessing housing. So often if you're low income, it's really just harder to access things that you're eligible for. There's lots of paperwork and red tape to go through in order to access services. So I've looked at, and the board has approved some policy changes just to increase accessibility. So things like how far we're looking back on criminal backgrounds, for example, when we're doing screening for our wait list. We've also implemented a shared application. This was just finalized recently. So previously the Housing Authority application was 18 pages long in order to get on our waiting list. We've been able to shorten that to 4 pages. And it's now we share with our county housing authority so that if folks submit the shorter application to one agency, they're able to be placed on wait lists for both waiting lists. So for the county's Housing Choice Voucher Program or for city housing. And so we take the burden of that, when we receive an application, we fax it over to our county housing authority. So, and likewise. Pairing housing with services. So I've been involved in some preliminary meetings with the Housing Our Neighbors Planning Collaborative when they were really looking at community input, how do we address homelessness? And what I heard loud and clear is that we need to pair housing with services to make people successful. So in both resolving homelessness as it exists, but also in preventing homelessness from happening to begin with. So the Housing Authority does not receive any funding to provide social services, and so we don't provide that, but we do provide housing to low-income people. And so I've increased collaboration, well, it's a work in progress, but to increase collaboration with human services and open to other partnerships as well, just to make it easier for folks who are living in our units or accessing housing through the Housing Authority to also access any social services that they might be eligible for that would help them live more successful and meaningful lives. And then working with other stakeholders to identify housing need. One thing that I'm interested in and the housing commissioners and I have spoken about is the development of housing that's affordable for low-income people. And so to me, it's important to really get a sense of what is the actual need. I mean, we have that fantastic 2023 housing study, but as you just heard, that data is outdated and we have newer data. So building on that study and collaborating with other stakeholders to really hone in on what is the housing need within the city. In particular, my interest falls around the housing need for low-income people. So like how many units do we need, right? So we can come up with a plan to address that. That's what I put together for you. There's other things in my mind, but nothing at the point of, action yet. So
That's helpful. Thank you. Claire, have a question?
Yeah, thanks. Thanks so much, Jessica. I don't know if this falls into your purview or maybe the overall collaborative's purview, but and you touched on it, the idea of private investment and private individuals sort of getting in and solving some amount of low-income housing for folks. And I'm just wondering how does that piece fit in to the broader picture? And I don't know to what degree you have a pulse on it, or you know how that works, or does that just happen totally independently?
I don't know that I can speak to that. So the Housing Authority, of course, is a public entity, a quasi-governmental
Maybe
entity.
that was a better question for Angie Stokes, or I'm not sure. I mean, you touched on it. It was what made me think.
Sure. I mean, I would say people don't make donations to the Housing Authority. You know, we're not a 501c3, unfortunately. But
So I think you have to have private and public partnership in order to solve the housing issue. So that, you know, once you have a housing study, so you understand what is needed at what price point, then you can look at then how do we do that both privately and publicly.
Got it. Okay. So yeah, I'm just hoping that what we know about what's happening in the private sector gets included in sort of the whole overall data assessment.
I think we can solve the problem without
Right.
private funding.
Thank you.
I would say that some of that falls kind of under economic development, because that's like, just like you talked about with the parking lot conversion, like or LIHTC or whatever, so that might be the right place to think about some of that.
Thank you.
Thanks.
I would just say, to me, before I can really start looking into options for funding opportunities to develop housing for low-income people, or to meet the, you know, that's affordable to those of low and moderate income, I would like to know what is it exactly that we need, or roughly even, you know, like how many units are we talking about? So
What do we need? Yeah, thanks. There's a couple more questions, looks like.
Okay.
So, Josh?
Yeah, thanks. Kind of go back to your first slide where you just kind of talking about the Housing Authority's overview. The first line there, the tenant pays 30% of gross household income towards rent and utilities. I was wondering what happens in a case where a tenant loses their income, perhaps unemployment, but then what if they have no unemployment ability? You hate to see somebody become homeless because they didn't. But what does HUD say have to happen to somebody if they lose their job and can't pay that rent?
Sure.
The current rate.
We do have a minimum rent, which is $50. So if someone, but we also provide a utility allowance. So realistically, what that looks like, it isn't common that people have zero income. They might be receiving some child support or SSI payments, W-2 income, for example, very low. Sometimes people have no income, but not for very long generally. There is a $50 minimum rent, but it gets absorbed in the utility allowance. So we pay less to the utility company than on their behalf. So how does someone go about keeping their utilities on? And it's very hard to live on no income, is all I can say.
Yeah, sure. Okay, thank you.
And Jess?
Yeah, this might be one of the things that you alluded to, like, that you're thinking about, but it's not at a point that it's like super final and can be discussed. But I'm wondering, so I serve on the RDA board here, and also on Housing Opportunities Commission, and I know both of those groups have been spoken to multiple times about the idea, the concept of tiny homes or something, and partnering with Housing Authority to manage those properties. And I'm wondering if you could talk a little bit about that, if you think that's something that in 2026, like Housing Authority might move forward as a priority, or I don't know if you have any feedback about that concept.
Sure. I think if I could back it up a little, one of the things that we've been talking about internally and that we're hearing about is that people want smaller homes. And so often what we're seeing in new construction is, you know, 3 and 4 bedroom homes with multiple bathrooms, but our average citizens here in our residents in the city of Eau Claire are 1 and 2 bed, like 1 and 2 person households, right? So to me, it leads back to identifying that housing need. What is the housing need? Not only how many units, but how, like, at what bedroom size? What housing types are people looking for? So we have talked about things so with the RDA, Aaron White and I have had conversations. I think initially the RDA was looking at potentially doing some rental units, and it's my understanding that that's not being discussed anymore. But looking for opportunities to perhaps first identify, and if that supports what we think, that we need to be building smaller homes, how can we do that in a way that make them affordable to, I mean, let's be honest, most people who work in Eau Claire are in retail and service industries. They're not making high wages, and so we don't, personally, I live in the city of Eau Claire myself, and I want to have a community where people who work here can also afford to live here, right? Where there are options for people. And so I think there are certainly ways that we'll be able to partner on those initiatives and really first identifying that need, and then any sort of, I really think it will help inform it's not like the city is going to magically come up with a bunch of money to do affordable housing development, but from time to time you do have some money and would like to know how to best invest it in housing in this community. So I hope that will help with that. And certainly I'm open to conversations about partnership. We've talked about, maybe if the RDA is doing something and establishing some income limits for it, while the housing authority staff are well versed in calculating income, for example. And so that would be an easy partnership. Mm-hmm.
I had a quick question for you. As you talk about partnership with the county, have you all looked at innovation grants through the shared revenue bill? No. Stephanie made a face. So
we don't fund the housing authority, so they're not
But they
technically
could.
part of the.
They could apply though.
We're not eligible. I did reach out about that
Oh.
early on, and the housing authority is not eligible for
That's
that.
silly.
But we're partnering in a way that, that sometimes there's really easy ways to partner,
Oh,
and it's
yeah.
just like having those conversations, right? So as we're meeting with people coming into our programs, and the housing authority staff are sitting down with them and going through a slew of paperwork and getting them ready to sign their lease and become a tenant with the housing authority, can we also then talk to them about, here's a small amount of information about services that are available through Eau Claire County, and would you like someone to contact you? And the county being willing to take that first step of like, we're not going to make folks call us, we will call them. So I think things like that, we work with low-income people, and low-income people generally have stress, right? It's like, I gotta go to work, I gotta pick up my kids, I gotta do all these forms, and I gotta do this form for food share, and I gotta do this form for the housing authority, and like, I don't even have time to know what I need. So maybe taking a phone call where someone's explaining to me what services I might be eligible for could be really helpful, and just kind of remove that barrier and help support people in our community.
That's great. Thank you.
Okay, just to summarize, Jessica is amazing. She's super entrepreneurial, very creative, has an amazing can-do attitude, and we took both Angie Weideman and Jessica from Chippewa, so I don't know.
All right, thank you.
Okay, now Billy.
I was gonna say, good afternoon, but I think, good evening,
We're
Council
in the
President
evening.
Berge and, council members. So I'm gonna quickly talk about, HAWK, the redevelopment authority, and some things that staff is working on, with the housing, focus. So first, the Housing Opportunities Commission, I'll highlight, they actually meet tomorrow night. Always invite people to come. I'm sure Jessica would love some support on her third night of the week if any of you showed up. But tomorrow night, they're gonna finalize and vote to recommend a work plan. And we're gonna do a presentation on what is a comprehensive plan, because that's coming up to start this year. So wanna make sure everybody understands what it is before we dive into it, and what can happen around housing with it. So some of the things HAWK has put into their work plan, We did a different approach this year. The chair is fantastic, Christina. She pulled out the 5 main points of the ordinance, put them on white paper, and then everybody discussed how we could get to those goals, those objectives. And so that's what they created their work plan out of. So participating in the comprehensive plan update, following up on the zoning code, we just passed it. We want to make sure we keep an eye on how it may be positively impacting affordability or negatively, and if there is a role that we can play to change that. Big focus on education, comprehensive plan, the different funding mechanisms, housing policy, federal and state legislation. There was a lot of conversation about our developers don't know all the things that are available, how to navigate them, all that. So we want to, and the community. There may be a small developer that might want to start something but doesn't know how to start that process. So education out there regarding all of these. We have some new state legislation that came through to kind of answer your private funding question. One of the new pieces looks like it's going to allow some tax credits for companies that participate in a housing fund. Waiting to see the details and exactly how that'll work before we start reaching out to try and make that something that happens and creates an independent housing fund.
Can I ask a quick question about that?
Yeah.
So companies that contribute, are these developers or employers in general?
From my understanding from the initial legislation that was passed, it could be any. So from my understanding, they can now get tax credits. I don't know if this is part of, I know you get like a reimbursement for childcare and it's part of a tax credit program maybe, or a state program. But they now have it where you can get a tax credit if you help in some way with childcare or housing. It's going to continue that, but also allow them to contribute directly to a fund. I don't know how many companies might take advantage of the tax credit if there's too many loopholes to jump through. But we're kind of excited more for the fund because a larger amount of money can have greater impact. But also helping individuals has great impact, especially if they can't fully afford the cost of housing.
So we manage this fund that we're talking about? No, we're talking about a state fund.
I don't think it's gonna be state. We don't know at this point. They just passed the legislation. I believe it's going to WIDA for the next step. So we're waiting to get more definition about what it looks like and how it'll be administered.
The administrative rules, yeah.
Thank you.
Yep, so we're excited about that. There's some other legislation coming down, potentially a TIF policy just for affordable housing, and an extension to 2 years instead of 1 at the end of TIF district financing periods. It feels like all electeds are getting really concerned that they're not going to get voted for again if they don't address affordability. So there might be a lot coming this year. And so trying to weed through what's good, what's not going to be helpful, and how they'll work for us will, I think, be a huge task. And then our role as a regional partner, definite thanks to the team, Angie, the Anges, add that to the list, Health and the Chamber, for stepping up to put the plan together and to discuss what the community needs. It's been talked about for a long time, but nobody had the positions or the ability to do it, and they dedicated time to make it happen. So huge thank you for all the work that they did on that. And went over to the county not long after John started to meet with the staff. We're just looking at every possible housing idea we can. That didn't work out, but John had joined the meeting and talked about the importance of housing to him. We talked about the need for a regional focus, and he said he was heading out to start talking to smaller communities. So we're really excited with the county's role with this and how we can fit into it.
Can I add one or ask you a question, Billy, on Hawk? Just to highlight one other thing that Hawk focused on in the last year that was like a significant amount of work that I think is related to this conversation is their revising of so we have the Affordable Housing Fund, and then we put out an RFP. We've got a matrix that we score the applications against, and so could you talk just a little bit about the revision of that matrix?
Yeah, you know, it was put out there that we have this matrix now. You guys can look at it and make changes. You can toss it out the window and start over. You can pull out the good, you know, however you want to do it. So they took it on. Carrie Poser created a matrix as a starting point, and then they worked together to refine it. So after they approved the work plan tomorrow night, the work plan and the matrix and conversation about the Affordable Housing Fund will be coming to you guys probably your next meeting. So we'll see how that fits in. But yeah, it's been really, I would say, refreshing to see a commission that works well together and that's taking on a lot of the work instead of, you know, us just coming, you know, here's your work plan, okay. That it's very, very valuable to them and working on it. So it's an exciting time to be back with Hawk. Not that you guys weren't great before, but it's an exciting time, and I think they have a very, very good focus. Redevelopment Authority, again, next meeting will be next Wednesday, and I'm sure Jess would appreciate people showing up at 7:30 in the morning to support her early Wednesday.
I actually can't be there,
so
someone should show up. In my place, maybe.
But we've been working with them on a district that is focused on housing with the funding that you guys allocated. This is the district being proposed. We've had a few meetings where they've given us feedback. We've taken that, we've put it back together, and we're just getting close. I feel confident next Wednesday we'll get a yes, but we'll tackle any concerns that might still be out there too. The goal of this is, it is a large redevelopment district and not something you're used to seeing. But this will allow us to focus on individual properties, or if there may be greater blocks or something, to where if there is a house that needs repair and, you know, maybe we purchase it, we help fund the repair, and then it's used for affordable housing. If it's beyond repair, you know, take it down. We're gonna be creating a website of different available properties that we own, so these might be properties that end up on that, and they will have an affordability requirement for development with them. So it's kind of a new approach to an RDA district, but I think we're all excited about that too. And then we'll work with them on these properties to explore some innovative housing concepts with some of our local developers. We've had multiple local developers reach out saying they want to be a part of the solution, and working with them and how we can help them be a part of the solution. City staff, we're going to create a web page through the economic development, help with the comprehensive database of data, more real time. We've completed a first review of city properties that have potential for redevelopment. They're all the ones in green. The rest of them are also city properties, but we haven't fully reviewed them. Some might just be a little sliver of land that will never be redevelopment, but we're going through everything that we own to see if there's potential. And we'll put those out on a website seeking affordable development. And then just kind of quickly touching on innovative ideas. You know, there's many different things we can explore, how other communities have done it. But I think we also need to be aware of like hidden costs, lot fees, HOA, condo fees, transportation costs, different stuff like that when we're evaluating affordable housing to make sure, yeah, it's affordable, but they're also gonna have hundreds of dollars in transportation they wouldn't have, so how we approach that. And that's all I have, unless there's some questions.
Well, I think we might need to just keep going here, but Billy, you're doing an amazing job. Thank you for your passion and persistence and coming together. And now, a completely different focus here with the chief.
Thanks, Billy.
All right, thank you. First challenge is figuring out, there we go.
Did it.
All right, I'm gonna talk about a couple things or a couple topics that may be uncomfortable to talk about, and really the purpose in doing that is to kind of define some of the issues going on in the community, which speaks to the why some of the efforts are being undertaken. Our efforts' primary intersection with the unhoused population relates to response to calls for service. These calls for service most typically involve behaviors such as disturbances, assaults, drug use, trespassing, mental health, and other disorderly behavior. Before I use a heat map showing the areas of the city where our officers are responding to these types of calls for service, as you can see, and specifically with the unhoused population, and as you can see, the vast majority of are in our downtown area. There are other areas of the city that are experiencing these issues. If we zoom in on our downtown area, you can see specifically where those are occurring. And they're, for the most part, correspond with where we have congregate settings or congregate areas, parks, Sojourner House, our parking structures, and things like that. In total, this accounts for a significant proportion of our department's overall workload. Citywide, over 10% of our overall calls for service as a police department are associated with the unhoused population. If we zero in specifically on the downtown area, it's 35% of our total calls for service. So it's a significant proportion. Another aspect of our department's efforts related to homelessness is as a partner working to clean up and maintain our public spaces in these areas. These cleanup efforts are not intended to be a solution for ending homelessness. I recognize that at times it may serve to displace problems or can complicate them. It's merely an effort to manage the symptoms of homelessness and address small problems before they become larger problems. Large encampments frequently result in further victimization of this vulnerable population. Common occurrences are assaults, robberies, sexual assaults, overdoses, and other serious crimes. It's difficult for first responders, police and fire to respond to these incidents. These locations are hard to find in exigent circumstances. The access is hazardous due to the terrain that's often involved, and a delayed response can and will have dire consequences. These cleanup efforts are also necessary to ensure the safety and accessibility of our public spaces. The public expects it. We hear from them every single day about these recurring issues, most notably accumulation of trash, abandoned property, feces, used drug needles, associated unsafe behaviors, and safety risks related to fire, electrical hookups, and heating as well. Absent attention, these public amenities become unsafe for the general public, unsafe for the unhoused population, and unsafe for first responders. These public spaces also become unusable and inaccessible for the general public, and people expect to use them, and businesses are adversely affected as well, and we do hear that on a daily basis. So we have basically two categories of maintenance efforts that are undertaken. We have regular maintenance efforts, and then efforts that are associated with larger scale encampments like what you see here. The regular maintenance efforts, they're regularly scheduled. Every Monday morning, there's a group of us meet in the downtown area. There's partners there, both public and private, police, neighborhood services, our streets department, city county health department, staff from Sojourner House, the Day Resource Center, block by block, city hall staff in Western Dairyland as well. Janice, am I missing anybody? All right, doing my best to catch everybody because there's a lot of folks involved. And so the cleanup efforts are also combined with outreach efforts and offering services of supports as well. Generally, the work that's being done is picking up trash and abandoned property. Sometimes there is attended property, that we have to deal with as well. But for the abandoned property, generally speaking, and that where there's people associated with it as well, we've had multiple contacts with that person, talking to them about their property before there's any removal efforts undertaken. For abandoned property, we take extraordinary steps to try to get it reunited with its owner, because that oftentimes it's the property is necessary for just basic survival. We do things like review public space cameras to identify the owners, establish timeframes for how long that it's been there. If the owner is present, we'll provide extended timeframes for removal. There was just a recent instance where we had an officer kind of sit or be with somebody for 3 hours while arrangements were made for their large amount of property to get removed from that site into somewhere where it could be safely kept. We've worked with staff at Haven House to contact an owner if something's unattended. It's as simple as our officers or the other staff that's associated with the cleanup will take a photograph of it and we'll share it with Day Resource Center staff, and then through their network, then they can try to identify who the owner is, talk to them, and then get the situation remediated. Also through the Day Resource Center, and then with us, this consortium helping along with it, developing a tag system where members of the unhoused population can put a tag on their items that has their name and their phone number, so they can be contacted later if their property is unattended. So the Resource Center staff can follow up with them, let them know what's going on, and then some steps can be taken. So these are kind of the regular maintenance efforts that are occurring on a weekly basis. Different from that is kind of our efforts or activities related to the larger encampments. With that, there's flexibility with that. We provide notice in all instances before any steps are taken, and there's flexibility in what can be done. There's a big difference between a tent or a group of tents in a remote area down by the river versus a similar encampment, which can be on a public sidewalk or on a sidewalk area blocking a business. So can be less of a timeliness aspect involved based on what the circumstances are. In every instance, we notify service providers ahead of time of what's going on, so there can be outreach efforts going out prior to any removal or abatement or cleanup efforts being undertaken. Along with that, assistance can be offered prior to removal from both public and private, and not only like offering of longer term service or what's available, but also with just helping them get their stuff move from that location. Again, this is not intended, or these efforts are not intended to solve the larger problem that we're talking about today. These maintenance efforts are geared towards mitigating smaller problems before they become more significant. And these efforts are really geared towards managing a complex and difficult situation in a thoughtful and compassionate manner while longer term comprehensive solutions are developed and implemented in the community as a whole. With that, any questions? All right, thank you.
Thank you, Matt. Awesome for everyone.
As you all know, our chief is amazing. Keep it quick. Okay, now the sojourners and transit, if you guys want to talk real quick. Okay.
Here I thought we'd save the worst for last. So I joke because I always tell our coordinators and everybody that, you know, one of the things we do that is the worst is shelter. There's nothing great about it other than being out on the streets. You know, it really is one of the worst situations that somebody can be in. But then I also build that up to, it's also the first opportunity for someone to really stabilize, be able to take care of their basic human needs, and then rest peacefully, hopefully, for the night, and begin the day, hopefully with a great start. With that, having the Day Resource Center and obviously the move of Eau Claire Community Haven House, you know, that is a great thing to have a daytime service, and not that we didn't before, but the pawn shop, let's face it, just wasn't the space. We were in there last week and definitely saw just how relaxed of an environment it was. Having the tables there, having chairs with an area rug in different sections of the space, it was really cool, especially being a part of the very beginning ideas of a Day Resource Center, not knowing who was going to be able to do it, and then being able to see it. So having that complement of nighttime shelter and daytime shelter, I think, has also trickled over into you know, our staff and our operations at Sojourner House. So One of the things I wanted to bring up, we talked about the three-legged stool, again, shelter being one of those, but then housing and supportive services being a part of it. Without one of them, we don't have the other. If people don't have their basic needs met, they're not able and at all to move forward to those next things. So we've had a heck of a day, haven't we?
Yeah, it's been a long time.
So just to describe kind of what our day was, we had a staff meeting this morning to talk with our staff, do some kind of midwinter reset here as tensions rise with the guests, just reminding and some training of de-escalation techniques and what our mission is, and that's to keep people in shelter and keep them safe. And sometimes that's not having somebody stay in shelter for the night, because we're a congregate shelter and we can't necessarily look and be able to just shelter for the individual. We have to think of the masses. So by having somebody leave the shelter for a night, we might be keeping 8 other people safe for the night. And that's a really difficult thing for our staff to consider, but it is something that they have to take into account. So what are some tools in your tool belt that they can take and be able to help the people and have the most successful night possible with all of the procedures that we have in place, with the idea of safety and security and the mission of keeping people safe for the night and with the roof over their head. So it's really a difficult thing. So we left our staff meeting, and then where'd we go?
I don't remember.
It's been a long day.
Yeah.
So we met with Jonah,
Yeah.
right? Jonah, the Tenant Landlord Resource Center, and it was Sojourner House, myself, we had our St. Lawrence Community Services Coordinator and our Housing and Financial Stability Advocate talking about how we can come together as a group and what services they offer, what services our Housing and Financial Stability Program offers within Catholic Charities, and how we can kind of not meld those two together, but complement each other. And what do they do, what do we do, and how can we work together? During that meeting, that's probably why you don't remember, you headed down to
Meet with Transit.
meet with Transit.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, so they're working on the new bus route between Sojourner House and the new Day Resource Center. So we went down and looked at some of the possible locations for that to pull up and gave them a tour of the shelters so they can get a better idea of our operations, talk about the hours and things like that. And then we also had the GAPS committee meeting today, which is, you guys might be familiar with that. The Dairyland Housing Coalition has a meeting every other week where we talk about any gaps that are, in our services that we offer as a community. And then, did we come here after that, or was there another meeting?
3 o'clock.
3 o'clock, what happened at 3?
We met with
We did have a meeting.
emergency management.
Oh, yeah, we met with, was there someone else in this room from that meeting? No, we met with Marissa and we met with Joe from City County Health Department, talking about how we play a role and how we can play a further role in responding to cold and warm weather emergencies.
And the extreme weather emergencies. So the reason I kind of wanted to take you through our day was not to take up a whole bunch of time, but just talk about the collaboration that is happening. Yes, we are just a shelter and maybe just a housing program, but having all of those partners come together and talk about solutions, it's something we've wanted for a long time, and I think maybe that's the circle of that stool, right? The collaboration that we really need to work together, and I really truly believe we are going places with what I'm seeing here. We do not see this necessarily in all the communities we serve in at Catholic Charities, and we serve 19 counties. So I just want to commend the work you guys have done as a council, city staff, county staff, just with pulling it all together and being willing to collaborate. So,
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So you guys really have been in the trenches, and just to note about the pawn shop though, so Catholic Charities agreed to be the fiscal agent for Haven House, which was very big challenge and risk, and so they were the group that saw that through and saved, kept people out of the, how long was it, like temporary spaces?
Almost 3 years.
Almost 3 years, really bad spaces too. So, yeah, that's pretty, like, I'm sure that was a good feeling to have that resolved.
I think that's why I got a little emotional
Yeah.
in the beginning, just seeing that all come together and being a part of just concerned community members that wanted this to happen.
Yeah.
And we started out in the basement of a church, and now look what's there. So it's pretty cool.
Great.
So we'll do finally Katrina.
Thank you. Katrina.
Hello. Okay, I'm sure many of you are aware of the programs we provide, but I just wanted to highlight that I think transit serves a couple of the pillars that the Angies spoke about, but one of them I think is the preventing homelessness piece, because we do serve a lot of folks that may fall in between programs or they don't hit certain thresholds, and but they still really need help. So I wanted to share, we have two main programs for reduction of fare. So anyone over 65 or on Medicare is automatically eligible for our elderly and disabled rate, and it's half price, so 85 cents per ride, whereas everyone else is $1.75. And then we also have an income qualifying program that it's only the city of Eau Claire. The other program, every transit agency is required to have it, but Eau Claire has an income qualifying program that essentially it's a self-certification. You show up at the ticket window or mail in an application, and it's self-certified, and in 5 minutes you're eligible for a reduced fare. So it's a very streamlined program that helps a lot of people. This last year in 2025, we saw a 65% increase of the use of our income qualifying passes. So that number went from 52,000 rides to 86,000 rides. So I do think that the transfer center is a big part of that. Just having that space with the ticket window where someone can walk up and 5 minutes later be in the program, I think it's been huge for the system. I looked, and 1/3 of all of the approvals for the year came within the last 3 months of the year. So when the transfer center was open and the ticket window was there. So I thought that we already are seeing great success of being able to help people quicker. We are able to also mail people passes. So a lot of the folks that are in those programs, obviously transportation is sometimes a barrier, so being able to mail out those passes is helpful for people as well. I also want to mention that when SNAP benefits were being withheld, we saw a lot of people reach out to us because they've never taken the bus before, but they had to shift their budgets from what they would spend either taking Ubers or Lyfts, which does hurt me to say, to then move to food. So we helped a lot of people during that time of crisis, and I think it's really interesting that many social services, they mark their success with how many people are in their program and then are able to get out of their program. But transit's different because we want people to use our services and know that they can continue to, even if their, life circumstances change. That way they can use that funding to go to different aspects into their life to move them farther. So just kind of an interesting thing about transit is anyone can use it, and I know some people need to, but I love when people don't need to and continue to ride it. You all are probably familiar with the partnerships we have, but they continue to grow. So Mayo Clinic, they provide passes to their staff that need them. So they have a lot of service workers that take the bus to work. So, and we are really excited whenever a large employer wants to do a program like that. They can bulk buy passes and then distribute on their own. As you know, UW Eau Claire students can all ride for free, and now students K through 12 can ride for free as well. Community Table, we have a partnership with them where they have discounted passes for folks going to and from the community table that we provide. And then we also are on our final year of the ARPA funded passes. So we'll be looking forward to how we continue or what that looks like moving forward after that funding source is depleted. And then this was mentioned previously, but at the end of this month, we're starting an express route from Sojourners to the Day Resource Center. We were able to, in the morning, fit it between 2 routes, so it shouldn't be much of a budget impact. And then in the afternoon, it will have, I don't want to say shuttle, but an express route from Day Resource Center back to Sojourners right before they open. So we're excited to see what that brings for us. And does anyone have any questions?
Very quick one. What, can you remind me again what ARPA funding expires?
Yeah, so right now we have, I think it's called, well, people call it the Unhoused Voucher Program, but right now Western Dairyland, DHS, and Sojourners give out free passes to their clients. We have 120 a month to allocate to people. So that's what the funding is for, is those 120 passes a month.
Which is how much money?
I think
Do you know?
yearly it's like 36,000.
Thank you.
I think that's it.
Okay, I'm gonna move us along, and thank you very much, Katrina. You're doing an awesome job. And I just want to give a chance. Scott and Liska and Seth and Catherine, Janice, any of you guys want to chime in with anything that you didn't think got mentioned, or you guys? Seth? No.
Could we open up they could send us an email? Sometimes you have to
absolutely.
Sometimes the stuff has to settle too.
Oh, for
So
sure.
if there's holes leaking back on it, feel free to send us an email too. And as you
And this is like that whole whirlwind made it seem like everything is, there's still lots of disconnects, but it kind of has, in my opinion, the building blocks of what could be a master plan and a system that really works together. And so I think there'll be more good stuff that comes out of this room. And then this, of course, there's a lot of other players out there. So I think it's a hopeful moment.
Is there like a meeting where all these people are in a room?
There's many different meetings of different combinations, so
Yeah.
that's part of it going forward, is to think about governance. Do we still need all of the different subcommittees like HOC and their gaps and ending homelessness, and so that's kind of the next chapter, is to figure out a work plan, and then how do you kind of manage that work plan with governance, and how does it relate to the city, how does it relate to the county, and how does it relate to the private entities, so we don't want it to be just a government solution.
Great.
Oh, Clara has her light on. Sorry. So can we give our audience a big hand
Yeah,
for
thank
being
you
here?
everyone.
Any closing comments by anybody?
I just really appreciate everyone's work. So
Yeah. Well, then stay tuned. It's continuing. Okay. So you guys can all go, except for Scott Allen.
what if they want to stay?
Oh, you can stay too.
You are welcome. All are welcome.
All are welcome. Very well played. That's going to be our logo, right?
Right up there.
Do you want to just keep going? And people can get everything. It's going to be quick, guys. Really quick. As quick as you want it to be. I know. That was a lot of information. You can come
Ethan, would you like any nuts? Do you want a napkin?
Okay, so, can I just take us through this real quick? This is what I just wanna accomplish today, is, did anybody look at this at all, or? Okay. I'm gonna give you a really quick overview. So, this is just, there's this document just has like a little memo, talks about what we did. I sent to you a draft of the work plan activities. I'm suggesting that at the next meeting, and this is with Scott's input, that you guys adopt the vision statement, the community values, and the high-level goals. And then we have a period of like a public comment period for all of the work activities and try to match them up with like the board commission and committee plans, or like REAP, or like our housing needs assessment, or basically to try to do as much crosswalking as we can of the work activities listed here with our other existing planning documents. And then you could formally adopt the plan at the March meeting, and then from there continue to develop metrics, and basically the whole plan would continue to be like a living document, or like a kind of draft type thing that we're gonna have to practice using it, so that we get better at making sure that all of our different plans match up. And then we have to link it to the budget and the city manager evaluation, our OSTAT performance management, our comprehensive plan, which is kicking off, et cetera. So you guys like that scheme?
As long as you brought up the comprehensive plan, are we
Yeah.
gonna have a work session
Yes.
on what that's gonna look
Yeah.
like? Okay,
Yep,
great.
at the next meeting. Okay, so then if you go to the next, this page that shows, so here's what I wanna know, do you like this vision? Eau Claire, a place for everyone.
You want feedback right now?
Yeah.
No, not, get back to you later.
Or I can give it as like a survey and people can vote for multiple options. The other one people mentioned was Eau Claire, a community where all are welcome.
Me too.
Do you? Or you could say it could just be all are welcome, or we welcome all, or something like that.
The first thing you said was,
All are welcome here?
was that the first thing you said after the? Place for everyone. Yeah.
Or just all are welcome, is that, so no place or?
Eau Claire, all are welcome?
Yeah.
You like it?
Work for Wisconsin.
Are you guys okay replacing that sign?
All are welcome.
Yeah, with the new logo?
No one knows where that came from.
But our.
I guess it's the 80s.
Okay.
All are welcome here, or welcome, even in different languages.
Yeah, cute, yeah. Okay.
With welcome, so you can do welcome in different languages, or just all are welcome.
You don't wanna have a noun in there, like a place or community where all are welcome, just Eau Claire, all are welcome.
You need something.
Where all are welcome?
Where? What did you say?
I could just.
Boo. Boo.
Okay, what you got? What does your great brain tell us, Ethan?
Also, your microphone's off, I'm
Wow.
I didn't hear a single thing.
Not just Jackie.
All ideas are welcome in Ethan's.
Wow. Okay, how about this? I will write up 4 options. I'll send them in a survey format, and then whatever gets the most votes we'll go with. Okay?
Sure.
What's that?
He's making a Star Trek reference.
Okay, now going to this document with the highlighted thing, I just want to point out some things that I'm really not sure about, and you can see, like, I basically changed the wording and stuff so that the numbers don't totally make sense, but when this, some of it was like, continue to invest in boards, commissions, and committee structure as it currently is, and like the staff basically said no, they'd like to change it. And I think the council interpreted it as like, no, don't change it, and the staff interpreted it as, yes, do change it. So I want your direction. Do you want to just not worry about this for the near future, or just continue as they are? Or do you want to go through a process of studying our boards, commissions, and committees? What?
I'm open
Microphone,
to
microphone, please.
I'm open to studying it, but it's something that, you know, given how important it is to so many people in the committee, it's something I definitely wouldn't want to rush into.
Okay.
I think we can pause.
Table it. Ethan?
Open to, maybe what you're asking is like, yeah, no, I guess I'm not sure I understand. I'm open to it, I think. Kind of just assume this was a part of the process, like looking at changes to the board as it relates to our strategic plan makes sense, right? Like,
Boards, commissions, and committee.
What do you think, Josh?
I'd be in favor of currently going on as it is right now and kind of push tabling it for a while. It's not high on the list of priorities right now.
I'll just say, it seems like we've talked about it, and then we bring changes here, and then they don't get passed.
Yeah.
Right, which is kind of why,
We've been
like,
trying
it's
to
kind of
do this.
cycled a few times and it's not gone anywhere, so I think we can devote the next year or so resources to other things.
Okay.
We can always visit in the future, but it's kind of just kind of spinning in a circle right now, so. Microphone, Mr. Otto.
What?
Microphone. Yeah, sorry. As we feel the effects of ZPAC, maybe that's a better time, or at least it's an opportunity to really
The
read about.
comprehensive plan?
Yeah, like, you know, it'll take a while before we know what it feels like really. And I think that would be a good opportunity, but it's low priority. I agree with everyone else.
I mean, I guess that could be even part of the RFP, like, suggest models for ongoing engagement and governance or something like that.
Yeah, like it seems like a really good transition if we're going to do it, but at the same time, I don't see an urgency to do it.
Okay, so I'll put that in the parking lot one.
Yeah.
So were you gonna say something, Aaron? Okay, then the next yellow, sorry, this thing is weird here. Support neighborhood associations' efforts to build community. I just kind of put that in the like maintain because I don't know that we have any bandwidth to expand that. If you keep going on the next page, I put encourage net zero construction such as building showcase or promotion of net zero energy building. I put that on hold because it sounds really cool, but it seems like a big new initiative. So I want you to tell me now if you disagree with this the placement of these. Or do you want to think about it more?
I think there's ways that could be done, you know, and maybe even some of it would be like, you know, enlisting, you know, the sustainability advisory committee to put together
Right.
an informational brochure about how you could do that. I don't think it would necessarily require like an inordinate amount of staff time, and it's one of those things like stuff that's built now is going to be around, at least I hope, for at least 30
Yeah.
years. You know, so if we can get even, it doesn't necessarily have to be net zero, but just like as many good ideas
Yeah.
in the hands of builders as possible on what we can do for sustainable building practices. Many of them, I'm sure, are already very aware of a number of things, but every now and then, you know, a new little tidbit might pop in that might be useful to people.
Well, it can just stay on the list, but if there's a group that identifies that they want to work on it, then they could move. The same with this next one, promote businesses and community working together to share tools, and I know there is the tool, so if that's happening in the private sector or whatever, that's perfect. And And then going on to the next page under quality of place, this develop Riverwalk, I added that, I can't even remember why now, but it doesn't have any scores because I added it later. But I think it's something that we wanna do.
Or you wanna do.
Hey, it might have a beer garden on the Riverwalk plan.
Well, is that on the list?
You know,
I
if
do
we're
want that.
including a Riverwalk, could there be a conversation about the Plank Hill redevelopment?
You consider that part of the river, on the river?
Oh, I mean, like along the same lines, like, or if that was added, is it worth?
I think the Plank Hill master plan is getting adopted or whatever, so then it just doesn't have funding.
Okay.
So I think it
okay.
exists or whatever, it just isn't funded.
Okay.
The Riverwalk is like this idea of trying to make like Eau Claire a destination related to our water and like what, it kind of dovetails with the regional marketing plan and the tourism master plan and stuff like that.
So we work with Visit Eau Claire to do that.
Yeah.
I,
Yes, and rowing,
I would think that especially since there's a lot of sites on the downtown parts
Yeah.
of the river that are still capable of being developed.
Yeah.
Having some sort of plan that
Yeah.
we can show to the people that own these and include them
Right.
in the input and just be like, hey, you know, we'd like to get together a plan to sort of form sort of a cohesive
Yeah.
vision for what we do here. And then, you know, when you go to develop these properties,
Yep.
we'd like to include that as part of your design. I think that would be a good piece
Yeah.
to include.
Okay, and the next one is sell city-owned property to create affordable or attainable units. That was what Billy was talking about. I think that's, you guys wanted that on there. This next one is create cross-departmental vision zero
Oh, wait.
effort.
So this one's gonna stay on there? Oh,
Selling properties?
yeah,
Yeah, unless you want it to come off.
okay, yeah.
And there'll be a later opportunities to like amend this, but then I combined a bunch and called it this: create cross-departmental vision zero efforts to promote data-informed reduction in crash-related injuries. So like, for example, Josh, this wasn't on the BPAC plan, but it's just like an umbrella thing for it.
Definition of Vision Zero?
It's like it's a goal is to have zero traffic fatalities, and so it's kind of a national, international like, thing,
That's the
meaning
catchphrase
traffic
for it,
calming.
okay.
All right, well, let's just keep going. Okay, the next one under safety and health. This one I thought was interesting. Determine goal strategies related to how the city supports investments in children. So, that ranked really high, but I know that we don't really have the bandwidth to do that, and we had done the, this grant, and I kind of backed away from it, because I thought that, like, we just didn't, like, maybe it was beyond the city's scope, so that's one where I'm looking for direction, like, do you really want us to try to do that, or should we take that off?
I know other agencies and other government levels are looking at that as well, so I don't know how much we'd be reduplicating other efforts going on already if we don't have the bandwidth for it. So, I mean, it's a laudable goal, but I think other institutions are looking at this also, including county and state. So, I don't know.
Or even our schools, you know, do we have our health department, like what, are they?
We had a project
Sure,
with the health department and the schools.
I'm
but,
sorry, I was thinking childcare, sorry, so.
Oh.
Yeah, so, but it just was very hard to maintain because we didn't have any staff able to support it. I mean, basically, I just did it all, and it was hard to. Yeah. Okay. Convene work groups to identify underlying causes of rising complexity and number of fire and EMS calls. I just put that on. Hold work session for council to explore, this was one where the staff seemed to not, the council seemed to not like the idea of making sure that officers are out in the community, and I wasn't sure what that meant, like if they want. So I thought maybe that would be something to explore in a work session. Like how is community policing happening and what's your vision for it? What's their vision for it?
You're saying council didn't seem to like that?
They didn't seem to like it, like the idea of increasing police presence in neighborhoods.
Neighborhoods like that.
Yeah, I think it all depends on how it's done too.
Yeah. I know when they show up to neighborhood association meetings, they're very popular.
Okay, well, this is pretty much. That's kind of their model, but the thing is, they've been really challenged with staffing issues. And so like stuff like bike patrol and that kind of stuff is kind of fallen off to some extent because they don't have like enough, they're not staffed to cover like their minimum staffing requirements. So, but they're getting closer to full staffing. So I think they would tend to go out and want to go out in the community and.
On horses.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm just really hopeful with what we heard tonight regarding One Better Way and its potential to really reduce the workload, certainly in the downtown area.
Yeah, for sure, yep. Okay, and one other, point of differences was that the staff thought AI was like kind of exciting and the council seemed to think AI was like not.
I mean, the part of the problem is it gets forced on us in so many directions.
Yeah.
And most of the results of it are so subpar. At least from my experience. Like, whenever AI helps with a search, the answer is always wrong.
Yeah.
Like, the idea of, I don't know what, I'm sure there are things like in the medical field where it like helps detect breast cancer earlier. And things like that, and I can easily imagine, you know, with regards to planning and things like that, making heat maps for whatever, like, sure, there's absolute use for it. I'd be incredibly opposed to utilizing AI for customer service or anything like that. At least until it gets way better.
Not to, I mean, anyway, I can talk to you about that later, but there are some ways it could be useful, I think, like aggregate, like, but anyway, that's probably a long conversation. I guess I would say the points of attention, we could try to flag and then have work sessions on to try to understand why there might be differences of opinion. Sure. I guess that was like my main thought.
Yeah, that seems good.
I think it's a worthwhile topic for us to really be talking about very openly because people might have, like, I have this view of it, I have this view of it, but there's so much to that whole broader question. So I love the idea of having some work sessions and hearing out and having the conversation.
One other one that the city is really excited about is like Placer AI, which is, I guess AI, or I don't know, but it's like data aggregation. And you can just know so much stuff about who visits your community, who uses the community, but then the council kind of ranked that lower.
Yeah, I feel like
Put your microphone on.
people on the ground doing a job are interested in a tool that might help them. I think it's definitely worth considering that because they know their job better than I do. So yeah, I'm open to whatever tools people think might help.
I just think there's just this cultural situation with AI, and it seems like younger folks do not like it. Because they see it, taking away jobs. They see it just with data centers, and it's just this whole. But people that are older love it.
Ethan, does that? You're young.
Yes.
Unless this AI stuff is free, it's stuff that we're, basically sending money out of our local economy to California for. So if we can do an equally good job without it, I would rather keep the money here.
Okay, so I know everybody's kind of super tired right now, but basically what I'm gonna do is, are you guys okay with us pushing this out to the boards, commissions, and committees, to have them review the goals? I'll integrate your feedback, and then we could give it out to them and see how it matches up with their work plan, see if they, if anything, they just completely disagree with. And then.
Beer garden on here?
It's.
Yes. Okay, thank you.
Did you see it though? Unfortunately, it got very,
Got low scores?
it's higher than the RFP for a campground. No, but I think a beer garden could be part of, those other pieces, so like the tourism master plan and the regional,
And remember, the whole point of the beer garden is
make
that-
money.
Right, make money for our parks, for trips.
I think people would love to do it, like right by like Half Moon, or there's so many great options. So people would really love to do it if we could figure out how to. I don't know if it's something we can. Well, right. That also got very low scores. Oh yeah. Yeah. Okay, did you wanna say anything? Everybody's, no, please, no, come.
No, just real quickly. 7:08, so 2 minutes. No, just thank you for the, is this, oh, these are on.
Yeah.
Thank you for the opportunity to help facilitate your conversations with the department directors as well, and energize idea creation that turned into what Stephanie put together for you here today. So I think this is a great document, and you can pretty it up, as they say, moving forward. We always used kind of our North Star was the library's strategic plan, just as a format and kind of structure, and I think it's important too, the way it's laid out here, that you have your strategic plan with the vision and those high-level goals and such, and then you have more of the operational work plan and work activities. So they are paired together, but they are separate and distinct in that the one is, again, strategic and the other one is operational. So now you're into the operational part, it sounds like, which is exciting. So good job.
Good, well, thank
All
you.
right. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. I have a question.
I think we're done.
I have a question.
Oh, no, please, yeah.
With the street ambassador program, sorry, but
Yeah.
does that mean that people don't want to evaluate it or they don't like it?
No, I think basically I changed it to evaluate, but I think before it was like continue street ambassador program or something like that. And so there was like, some people seemed to think it was helpful and some people seemed to think it wasn't. So that's one where it seemed like I've just changed it to evaluate.
Okay.
Yeah.
I agree. It seems like that should be something we take up before
Yeah.
the last minute.
Yep, absolutely, yeah.
It took me a minute to come around, but no, I would definitely be open to evaluating the structure of the boards, commissions, and committees. I don't think I said that right when we first said
Oh.
it. Anyways, yeah.
Do you want to spearhead it?
You know what? Why don't we think about it as part of the RFP for this comprehensive plan? Like, let's see if we can fit into something. But
I think you have to do a lot of engagement around the boards, commissions, and
Yeah.
committees, like at the beginning. But if it's an RFP, they would do that.
well, we're having a work session on this comp plan next time, so everybody think about that question, like how do our current governance structure relate to that, the development of that plan, and then the ongoing monitoring of the implementation of the